Justice for all.
I'm old enough to remember the pre-God flag.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Evening.
Morning. Did you just
That was
get up?
I think Jen got me earlier. She said good morning when I walked in.
Did you
Our
just
friend
get
down the
up?
village mobile used to always greet, good morning.
Oh yeah.
You just got up?
No. Yeah, about 13 hours ago. So we're gonna have the continuation of our budget discussion, go over the town administrator job applications, and then get into old, new business, administrators' reports, and anything that the select board would like to talk about this evening. So, if we could start right out with the fire department, as we got an email
Yep.
from Chief One
Yeah, I saw it.
midday with a request to reduce her budget by $1,200 in the general supplies line. The Firefighters Association received an anonymous donation. And they're gonna be able to purchase their firefighter hoods.
All right.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because if I don't mark it up, it won't happen. Okay, so firefighter, which account?
Whomever donated that $1,200.
I saw it.
We thank you very much.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we don't want to.
Yes.
Do we know what account?
Yes, general supplies, was it?
Supplies, yep.
Minus 1,200.
Oh, general supplies
What number was that?
is 5079, and it's gonna come down 1,200.
5,
I have,
wait a second,
All right, for the first one.
610,
yeah, in the fire department, Jim.
fire department.
I'm in the fire department, 610.
610.
It was 5079.
Oh,
So
5,
it's now gonna be 3879.
you're right,
Oh, alright, gotcha.
okay.
3879?
3879. Yep.
9 or 1?
9,
Okay.
3879. All right,
You want a copy of the, that they're working off of? I have extra copies here if you want one.
yep, yeah, wouldn't want to burden her with excess funds. Okay.
So where we had left off on Saturday, was that the health department?
Yes,
All right, where, what page is that?
it's page 11.
Page 11, yep, okay. Mhm. I don't see anything to change there.
Actually, I think you were in the health department,
Okay.
Yeah,
and I think you had removed, you had, the stipend, the salary was 6, and you put it back to 3 where it was.
we did?
I can check that, I have it over here.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, I don't think we.
I don't recall
I don't
it.
think we started the health department.
We never started that one, Jim.
Then I have it as 3 on mine.
Yeah,
And the old one?
Yeah.
Okay.
open right here. Yeah, I don't think we made any change
Yeah, it
whatsoever.
was 3, okay, I know what it was. Okay. I'm thinking I had it, a while back I had a typo and I was looking at $3,000 and that's what it was.
All right, all right.
You have a new health officer this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Who is it? What's,
Oh, yeah,
what's the name?
that's right, we appointed that at the beginning.
Oh,
of the
Frank, okay, yep,
He lives on Effingham Road, okay.
yep.
He's also
The-
volunteered to be
the-
the animal control officer, but that whole process hasn't been gone through yet.
You're right, that hasn't been finalized.
You see
I
anything in
believe
health
the animal
department that you wanna
control
change
officer
Jason,
program.
or-
Yep,
So no changes to the health department? No changes to health?
I'm gonna wait to hear from Jay first, to see if he has an issue.
Oh,
So the mileage was the one that kicks it up.
Yeah, mileage. We don't have the company limo.
No.
But it's easier for the person to go out from where they live. This is to come down here,
Yeah,
rent the wreck and go. So, probably don't lose.
Yeah, I don't have any.
question, good, sir?
It's good.
Good. So no changes to the health department?
No, before last year, in 2020 and 2020, well, in 2020, we didn't have it.
We didn't have anybody to spend the money.
So there was,
You had a bunch of zeros.
I found out that I had to cover it. If the state finally got to me and said, hey, we're looking for information, but they had already like placed the people in the house and everything, just based off of Meredith's report. I'm gonna do like a health and safety check.
All right, animal control.
I think animal control you briefly discussed with the chief. a little
Yeah, I think he was
Yeah, we did.
comfortable with this one.
bit.
Yeah, yeah, like,
I thought we should leave it with the police,
mhm.
but I was out.
Well, he's still,
No,
he's
he's,
still with the police.
we did,
No, I'm saying
Oh,
not
into
hire,
their budget,
Oh.
yeah.
because we were getting it done for supposedly
Mm,
just a lot less,
yeah.
and they were handling it.
mm,
And I didn't feel like it was a real distressing plea for removing it. So,
got bigger fish to fry.
It was their request a couple of years ago to separate it out, so we're gonna give them, this year to get it going
Yep.
again.
And then take another look at it.
So animal control's unchanged.
Okay,
We go down to welfare.
yep.
I heard, I think last year, they said it really doesn't matter. It'll be what it is.
Yeah, this is one of those budget items where it's my understanding that the welfare officer can spend whatever she deems necessary to take care of the people that
That's what I.
come her way. And if this goes to 50 or 80 or $100,000, well, that's it. Town's gotta find the money.
I remember it was 20, 30 years ago, Peterborough was well over 100,000 then. Okay, when you look at the bottom here, okay, above it, it says health welfare agencies. This thing isn't delineated, I gotta work on this accounting system, but under health, we have the agencies that we support.
Mm-hmm.
So the 47216 includes 11515.
Okay.
So we need to talk about that. And if you want to look at that, go to, you have a copy of the warrant. And there's a specific article for that on there. It lists all of them.
Article 9.
Yep. Yeah, I can see where that's telling. 11,000.
We discussed one of these charities. Do you recall that? Was it Madnock?
Monadnock Family Services is looking for 6255.
And right now
We're
we're
donating,
at
right,
250.
right now, last year we donated 250. They were looking pretty near that before.
Mhm.
They were trying to do it on the basis of, I think, $1.25 per capita. And that's what they were trying to assess the various towns. my understanding is that there may be a couple of towns that picked their own number. We were, I think 3 or 4 years ago, up around 750.
I think the reduction came last year. I can't remember if this is one of the ones that was reduced last year, but we went based on actual usage. And they either couldn't or wouldn't give us any type of numbers of how many New Ipswich residents were utilizing their services. So, most of the other ones had given us figures to go off of how many, either families or individuals from New Ipswich were served. That's what we based the donation off of.
I can probably get that for you.
Previous year was 500.
When?
So,
This would have been 2019.
2019 was 500, then it dropped to 250.
mhm.
And then before the 500, going back a little bit, it was 750.
Yeah.
But you said this year they provided, did they provide how many residents actually?
I'd have to go-
utilized the
I gotta-
service?
Back it on all this stuff. I can go back and look at it, but
Okay.
if you want, I will, what you're telling me is the board wanted information, couldn't get the information, so that made it 250 and called it a day.
Yeah, that didn't cut it
Okay.
off completely, but.
So, I mean, we're ahead of the curve compared to other times, okay?
Mhm.
So why don't I just get you that information,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah,
And if you want, we can, any of the letters that have been sent from any of these
Yeah.
groups.
I'll bring them all out at the next meeting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because this is a whole little package by itself.
correct.
Now, in talking to Carrie, most of the ones in here, except for that one, which she doesn't deal with that much, okay? She works with quite a few of these a lot, and they do save the town a lot of grief,
Yeah,
okay?
Yep.
And except for one of them, which might be just a couple of dollars, this thing here is, it's pretty static.
Okay.
I know last year we did make some changes, based on usage and things.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah.
So let me get you the usage for
Okay.
MFS. And what I'll do is I'll scan it and email it to you, and then at the next meeting, you'll have a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Jim, just a question on this, and, kind of the ambulance service, bumped my memory here. We have Article 2 as our operating budget for the town.
Right.
And we are working on the budget here, which these line items, the health, welfare agencies, and the ambulance are included in that budget, correct? But we have a separate warrant article for those articles. Is this double accounting, or,
No,
no, it's not?
this is an easy one to get to. We have welfare in our operating budget.
Yeah,
If you look at this thing here, okay, for welfare, you have account 4442,
yeah,
which comes out to 35,000 something, okay?
yeah,
That's in the budget. The 11515 is not in the operating budget, it is a separate article.
right,
And this gets into crazy semantics, but it's all part of the budget of the town. Okay, so when you look at the operating budget, you do not have those welfare agencies in there, they're voted on separately.
okay, so they are not included in Article 2.
No,
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
the ambulance is not included in Article 2.
Just wanted to make sure we were not double accounting.
No, yeah.
No, you're not double accounting.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not very good at that anymore. Switch things. I get enough trouble finding it once.
Alright, now we're on to welfare.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with
Now,
that.
the other services, the only increase here is on what?
these.
You get a
This
$2,000.
article?
The $2,000 jump up above it.
So this number, so this is separate from that, and then that number is,
I gotcha.
it's just not listed right. And was different, like this is different this year, the way that Jim was doing it versus how it was done in the past, but it looks like it jumped up. Actually, no, last year must have been the same thing.
No, actually, it's done the same way.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. I think we've,
Let me give you one example. Welfare heat. It shows nothing there, right?
you know,
Well, I had a call from Carrie today, and I work with her on somebody who's out of fuel, out of money, family. There's no heat. And she's gotta get an emergency 100 gallons of fuel. That ain't cheap today.
no,
And not only that, the fuel company, I didn't know this about the fuel companies, I've done welfare, I never had a problem with fuel oil.
Yeah.
They'd call up anybody, I'd have one fuel oil supplier, and he'd run all over the town, not anymore. They wanna know the tanks are good,
Yeah, yeah,
so they're running around inspecting tanks.
yep,
So she, in order to get the fuel from the company that's already delivering there, okay, who's okay with delivering there, she should do a credit card over the phone.
mhm,
They wouldn't bill, because we run on their list of billing. So it gets,
yeah, I know the
you
fuel
know,
companies
these things
are-
that have zeros in them, they can pop up and bite you real quick.
Yeah,
Especially when prices increase.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's when,
yeah,
you just,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, this person was on COD.
mhm.
Yep.
Alright, so
Okay.
moving on to Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
All of the pool and all of the parks and recreation, are on one line in the budget. And they're part of the operating budget. If you look at the MS 636, you'll also see it on line 3.
Yeah.
And you'll see the article number, Article 2, which is the operating budget article. This is what they gave me, I have no feel for this, but you
Good.
do.
Yeah, it looks similar to what we had before.
Yeah, it's almost dead on,
I guess the
give or take a little.
the dues, subs and fees, looks like it's due to be decreased. Maybe to make up the additional 500 in the stipend.
Totals on the next page.
Yep, yeah, just going through the,
Yeah,
each one, let me
Yeah,
see,
I'm just,
do each one separate.
I'm just wondering about all these, zero line items towards the bottom there. Are those programs gonna restart, this coming year?
Well, they're already running, it's just they're out of the revolving account.
All right,
So
just
whereas,
leave it alone,
yeah, they're just listed there,
just a place marker.
maybe, yeah.
Okay,
But we, shifted everything out of the, general budget and put it into, like, the people that use it pay for it.
all right.
Doesn't cost nothing to have a zero account.
Hmm.
so minus the 500 off the dues subscription and fees. We have $400 was spent last year
Mhm.
and nothing the year before. Of course, the year before was what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Do you happen to know what that is? Is it in our folder or?
But there's no explanation for the,
Oh.
I don't recall what that is, but that, like Nicole would have known, like dealt with whatever that was.
Yeah, I
'Cause I know
don't,
like a lot of these subscriptions end up being something that just goes in the round file every month. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And why get them
Well, it
if they're
looks
not
like
being used?
they only spent 400 out of that line
Yeah.
this year, so if we move it down to 700, I don't think there'll be an issue.
You
Yeah.
move that to 700?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's reasonable.
Which account?
560? If I'm reading across correctly,
Oh, okay, thank you, I was looking down.
to 700. All right,
How much? Sorry.
it's down
I
700.
promise I'm paying attention, but I didn't get the amount.
700.
Thank you.
Do you have questions with anything else?
The electricity doesn't look too good. You're spending 165 so far this year, 194 in 2020, and you're budgeting $25.
I'm not even sure what the electricity is, cause we don't get an electricity bill.
Comes out. It's not over there.
So I think it just
I'm
gets
sorry.
tossed in there.
I mean, yeah, it looks like it ought to be around 200. I mean, if we're gonna
Well, yeah, but,
budget,
you know, they're under, they've been coming under budget, anyways,
What is,
Parks and Rec.
yeah, I'm just saying, you
Because
know,
2020 was, that's what it was for the year, but then this year,
well, there's a huge error in here, under 2021 budget. There's $1,000 for postage. With nothing spent.
and
I
then,
didn't get a chance to go over this, I mean, it was handed to me, I put it in the system, and I figured we'd get to it here.
yeah,
yeah,
But there's $1,000 in electricity, which
No.
probably belongs somewhere else.
no,
But it's not there now. The request is not there for. Yeah, electricity would be.
well, they're under anyways.
Yeah, they are, but if they're not getting any bills for it, why would we have the line? Alright,
Sweet.
Well, and it's being put there, like Roger's assigning expense to it, but.
yeah, the problem is it's just not being tracked appropriately.
Mhm.
What's that?
possibly, they could have an explanation for
It may be billed to another account,
What's that?
you know, somebody else's
1,000?
account.
it. It may be.
'Cause
The
it's about this,
1,000?
no, the $194 in 2020, that was billed to
Yeah.
the rec electricity, and the $166 for 2021,
Well, there's no other electricity account there,
yeah,
and there is electricity used.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know
The
how to
lights,
break,
the main, the field lights don't go with the pool, that's for sure.
Yeah,
small thing though.
And, if I got this right, the pool doesn't have any electricity.
They running on solar?
Which I know isn't true because one, one month, the electric bill went way up, it was like $1,000 for some reason, and Roger didn't understand, there's no meter for us to look at, or, I don't know, no clue like how the electricity is broken out down at the park down there.
It was probably spelled out in the federal grant.
Yeah.
Back in when?
Right. Alright, so,
Hey, can I make a note on the postage, that $1,000 for the postage? Under adult recreation, they budgeted 1,000 in 2020.
That's what it is.
1,000 in 2022, maybe that was there.
Yes, it's the adult, it was for adult recreation. So
okay.
the 1,000 up here, actually belongs down there, but that's where they budgeted it. They have 1,000 for adult recreation
All
in
right,
2022.
Yeah,
all right,
Now, I remember, yeah.
okay.
all right, so we're
That's
gonna,
what that means. But what we're left with is the electricity. But we can't run that whole place in $200 worth of electricity, there's something wrong here.
Yeah,
Can't help
I
it.
can make a note for Shauna to look into that
Okay,
with Roger, but,
have you ever seen what happens when the Eversource bills come in?
Mhm.
You never put them on a Pony Express horse, we couldn't fit them all. I mean, a stack like that. You know,
Every month.
once a month. Somebody
Do
killed
we
the whole
own too many
tree.
buildings?
Huh?
Do we own too many buildings?
we do.
No, these are meters. You can have lots of meters on one
Oh.
building in one place. Each one's a meter.
alright.
Well, anyway, I'll make a
So,
note too.
any other changes for Parks and Rec besides the,
No, I don't see any.
I think most of it's good.
alright,
Okay, we're gonna leave that alone though, except for 700 on the one. Count 560.
yeah,
And moving 1,000.
I can't move it.
yeah, cause that was put in last year.
The
That's
budget
from
last
Oh,
year.
records.
oh, okay, okay.
It's just the way it is. So we're now at 14,461
Yep,
Wow.
for Parks and Rec. And Pool stays the same.
alright, so pool,
Oh, we haven't done pool.
now we're on the pool, yeah, pool's a little bit bigger.
Close it down.
The FICA computation change. The Medicare computation change. Whoever did it the year before didn't have the right percentages,
Okay,
because the labor stayed the same. That doesn't mean you're gonna spend it, but whenever I do a budget, if I got X amount for, you know, labor, I'm gonna put in what the FICA Medicare is for it.
Yep,
looks like she's looking for a $1,400 increase in the stipend, like the director's stipend for that.
for the pool director,
Yeah.
yeah.
From what I've heard, it's warranted, talking to other.
Oh, yeah, and it should really be like 5 times that.
That's
Yeah,
what I've
it's
the amount
heard.
of time.
controversial.
But,
to run that for a couple of months and then have to clean up afterwards and have the prep before.
mhm. Well,
That's not a lot of money for somebody to do.
no, it pretty much goes May to October,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not a lot of money.
No.
Yeah, I think 3,000's warranted.
Not minimum wage.
No.
What about the equipment maintenance and the open close? Looks like the expenditures are well below what was budgeted, and the pool
I think we
chemicals.
gotta be careful with some of these, like this, the pool chemicals.
Well, chemicals,
Getting
yeah.
the timing when they buy them. and-
Yeah, I remember that discussion with Peter and the storage and the purchase. I recall that discussion we had.
Last
Uh,
year.
No,
No,
no.
just this year
This
we-
year, just this year we had it. And she had to buy at a right time, and she needed to buy the chemicals, but store them, somewhere
Where they won't freeze.
where they won't freeze. And Peter said he had someplace to store those,
I wonder if,
so,
like the credit card clearing line in the select board budget, cause there's missing expenses from this, like it
Yeah,
seems to
You're
be, like the numbers
probably
seem
right,
pretty
there's
odd.
probably something in there that belongs over here,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to chase down. But when we look at what's been expended, you know,
Yeah,
I got $13,000 or $14,000 sitting over there, which I gotta sort out.
yeah,
And I suspect a lot of it does come from the pool and parks, but mainly the pool. It could come from there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing though, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe this is,
Why don't we just leave it the way it is?
Yeah.
because all the numbers are pretty much the same
And
as
and
prior
then
years.
I'll look into the expenses on those.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, you know, I hate to say it, but I don't know why Roger has such difficulty figuring out which account these things go to, how the bill originated, and what it should be charged to.
What he's looking for, he's looking for the, call it a voucher or the point of sale.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting the bill, and he's not getting those until long after, in some cases. So that's what he's looking for, because that's what he uses to make sure it goes into the right place.
Well, most places have at least a 30-day billing cycle or something. Sometimes it's even faster than
I
that.
discovered that, you know, since, before I came here, we had some late charges too.
Mm.
But by the time that the thing gets here, it gets all sorted out, and you got a million people running around with credit cards.
mhm,
I think to be fair to Roger, it must be a nightmare to sort this out. You're like playing Clue every day.
yeah.
All right, I'm good.
Do you have any questions with the pool, Jason?
No.
Okay,
Next.
so pool's unchanged too.
Then we have library support. You asked for 45, you gave them 40, because the 5 increase they wanted was to be the match to Parks and Rec
Yeah,
for a program they were gonna work on together.
yeah. Yeah, we can get,
It'll be their
we can
match.
talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the rest of the warrant articles. Alright, so we have,
So this goes into the budget,
what's that?
or does it?
Which one?
The library support.
No, it's a warrant article.
Is there a numbering system here that tells me that this is not part of the operating budget?
Yes. If you look at the MS 636, and you look at account 4583, library, on page 3 of 9, you'll see there's nothing there, it's all zeros. If you go to page 6 of 9, individual warrant articles, you'll see the library there as Article 7 for $40,000.
Now, the way that it's lit, like the library and the health
Flagpole.
services,
The library and the flagpoles are all together.
yeah, yeah,
That's not the way I didn't set this up.
okay,
Somebody put that together as patriotic purposes, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
The library support is,
that should be independent.
you know,
well, is there a way to have like a heading for warrant articles? And then put everything that's a warrant article that's listed in here under the warrant article?
the system won't do it.
I won't do it,
No, what I can do though, is I can break out library as a separate topic, and then pull up patriotic purposes into a separate topic, and that will separate them. The
okay,
636 is what gives you a better picture of that. But this is just a list of accounts,
yeah,
and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use the state standard chart of accounts. And what somebody did in the past, a number of years ago, they put all the warrant articles into the block of account numbers than a capital budget. It doesn't make sense to put libraries for a capital budget. It's not a capital budget.
No, it's not.
So I got some of the stuff back where it belongs, but there's a couple of them. And I'm not, I'm not sure how,
So can that just be taken out of here then?
what's that? No.
No,
No,
okay,
it stays here
yeah,
because this is just a series of accounts.
yeah, no, I understand that.
That's all it is. And quite frankly, your operating budget is everything except the capital budget. There's a different way of looking at it, but it's not the operating budget article.
Okay,
Okay,
I didn't invent the system.
patriotic purposes,
Which one? Patriotic purposes, yes.
alright. Flags.
We haven't gotten the bills yet. Or they haven't been paid, so they've been incurred.
Yeah, Memorial Day, what do those expenses entail? I mean, we put on a parade and, do the veterans things and so forth.
There's a
think
band,
it
there's a
was
fishing
in
levy,
here.
and there's
Yeah.
maybe some other stuff involved, there's mailings. I don't know if it ever got here, but there's mailings to veterans to
Mm.
participate.
There's also a regular, replacement of flags out on the
All right,
veterans' graves.
Yeah.
all right.
Is Memorial Day, isn't that the thing that they have the ceremony in the Smithville Cemetery in the
Yes.
center?
Yeah,
Conservation Commission is less than the year, same as the year before.
okay.
I got one for you, Jason.
Was that?
Heritage Commission.
Oh, man.
Near and dear to your heart.
I just wanted to quickly.
I got all the zeros in it.
the Conservation Commission, that's,
I'm comfortable with conservation.
yeah. You all right, Jay?
I think we need to add something to Heritage since Jason's restarted it.
We need something,
It was actually Debbie who restarted it,
Oh.
and Fran.
All right,
Yeah.
credit where
It
credit
doesn't
is due.
matter anyways. Either way, it's, yeah, hopefully off to a good start.
Uh,
The prior amounts?
Put $20 in each account, the total's $100. That's not very scientific.
No, but, I mean, there's the New Hampshire Preservation, group that does their big whoop-de-doo in March I think it's every other year or something up in Manchester. That's always a worthwhile go-to. I go to it every year, or that they put it on. I mean, it's not a lot to get, for an entry fee. It's like $15 or something like that. But, it's a worthwhile thing for members to get their feet wet on old barns and how to talk about historic homes and stuff.
Unfortunately, at our first meeting, we never even
Talked budget.
talked about it. We were just trying to figure out a path ahead.
Well,
I wonder if we could carry forward 2021's.
budget, yeah.
Yeah.
$500 is not, I would take, 2020 budget, or 2021 budget and just put it right on there.
Right.
So that appears to have another oddity where there was dues for $50 that was put against that account, but it wasn't even active.
Wait a second, supplies or dues?
Dues.
Dues
Dues.
for this
I-
year.
Oh.
How could it even, that's just impossible, I think,
Mhm.
unless something was done last week. I don't know if the chairman,
I think probably just Roger put something in a bad account.
or maybe he
I can
renewed a
look that up.
subscription, I don't know.
But I think your suggestion of just carrying the budget forward would be fine.
I agree.
I'll
So,
look that account up.
so let's make it 200, 0, 50, 100, and 150. Total 500. It's okay, Jason?
I got a suggestion.
Something.
Something, we only spent $56.
I got a suggestion. I would take.
That was some books you bought
But I
back
would
then.
like to see more,
I'd like to see those books. They disappeared.
yeah, we didn't buy a whole lot.
No, you bought 3 or 4 books.
But Jim gave me the name of a publisher
Yeah,
who has it on file, so we're hoping to
I have
tap
one
into
on,
that.
I have one on order for me, and having it sent here.
Oh, yeah?
So you can see what it looks like.
Yeah,
The way the publisher got the Gould and the Chandler history was myself, Larry Ackerson, and David Codson got together with a fundraiser to fix up the hand tub, okay?
Mhm.
And we went to the publishing company, we had books available to us, and we took originals down there. They copied them without destroying them, gave us the originals back, and we sold many cartons of books all around town. I think we made about $600, $700, $800 on it.
see,
It was
now
great
that's a
fundraiser.
really good idea for a fundraiser for the Heritage Commission, because when I talked to the librarian, she said they had to stop putting them on the shelf. People feel like this is some kind of rare commodity and they want their hands on it, and they were taking them from the library. They won't check them out at the library anymore. You can look, sit in the back room. They
Well,
would
in
just,
this particular case, you can get them, it's a brand new book.
yeah,
And I remember the Gould history had a pocket on the inside cover,
Mhm.
and had a
I
map.
had a map, yeah. Probably
was-
that's not included in that, is it?
Yes, it was included in the reprints that we did.
Oh, wow, that's
Oh.
neat.
They were really good.
Hmm.
Higginson Book Company, publishing company, whatever, and, so,
Alright,
Okay,
principal bonds, nothing we can do about that.
yeah,
not a bloody thing.
So,
okay.
Then you got the, interest on the next page.
All right,
Yep, and that's what that is.
Yep,
and here's your warrant articles.
and $1 interest on tan is just a placeholder. I don't expect us to be borrowing anything, but it's just there.
Okay,
Alright, so,
Moving on.
Jim, there is more article expenses, it's right at the end,
Oh, I understand that, but
so we can't,
it's not all warrant articles though. It's a misnomer. It's the way somebody set up the accounting system. These are the warrant articles that are classified as capital. They were in capital accounts. So, yeah, and they're pretty familiar. And the article numbers are from past, I'd have to go check them.
but there's, like in this one, it's listed for the ambulance.
There's nothing there.
No, I know, but it could be,
No, but then you have the ambulance in the wrong account. No, where we report
Oh,
to
the wrong,
we
like,
report to
account
the state,
numbers.
we gotta report it in a certain account. And I can't get it in, because the ambulance is not a capital item.
alright, so you pulled it out,
I pulled it out.
okay, So this doesn't exist anymore.
No, it has history.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Alright. We can get into warrant articles another time. It looks like we have the budget all set. So next Tuesday, we're gonna discuss the warrant articles when, Jim gets some more information on, and background on some of it for us for Tuesday's meeting.
You don't think we should start into the warrant articles? I know you said.
Well, yeah, we can, but,
Well, I don't
you know,
know,
we're
I
not gonna
guess.
really be able to make decisions without numbers behind it, a lot of this stuff. You
Well,
wanna
you
go-
had, your first two articles listed here, you've been cranking out every year for a bunch of years now.
Mhm.
The 350 and the 250.
Yeah.
The next one down is, the highway block ramp.
Mm-hmm.
Did you wanna go through the warrant, just to kinda?
Well, no, it sounds like you have
Well, no.
other items that you'd like to get to, so I won't.
No,
I won't.
no, let's go through the
try.
warrant, and then maybe we'll come up with some other questions, like that can be answered.
Yeah, I mean, we
next
should at least do
Tuesday.
a cursory.
Okay. Alright,
I mean,
Okay,
if
so
this-
you wanna go through the warrant now?
yeah, I'll go through the warrant.
Yeah, I mean, if there's
Okay.
something that leaps out,
Yeah, you see
and there's some
typos.
items that we need to add too, so,
If you see any typos in there, let me know.
yeah.
Okay. And again, I did not add anything to the warrant because I thought it was
Yeah.
needed.
Okay.
Could have.
Article 2 seems fairly straightforward. Article 3, that we agreed, was gonna stay put. Article 4, roads, that for 350K.
So
Article,
this, oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask Jim, is this Article 2 an updated number from Saturday's workshop?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
289663.
Go ahead, Bert, I'm sorry.
yeah. Anyway, I wanted to get down to Article 4 and 5. I wanted to make sure, and this has been a kind of an ongoing, it's a minor issue, but it's important. I want to make sure these two articles allow us not only to reconstruct roads, but also to top coat them instead of a total reconstruction. And there's been some questions in the past about that, whether or not this article actually allows us to do that.
I think that would be a legitimate question because it says to reconstruct and pave.
Yeah,
That is
Back
a
up to
legitimate
Article
question.
3.
okay,
Article 3 allows you to top coat, you could spend 147,250 for top coat.
right,
So you could, and I'm not sure how big an amount it would be, but you could make that article, the use of that article to emphasize that particular type of.
right. I think I would like Article 4 and 5 to read with similar language for the maintenance, construction, and reconstruction, as well as paving. I mean, basically, I want it to be a little more broader so that we're not limiting ourselves.
This is essentially a part of the highway department's budget now.
It is,
Yeah,
It's a sideways,
agreed.
I suppose the taxpayers understand this.
Yeah, but I want to make sure that we're not legally binding ourselves.
I just wanna, what do you mean it's a sideways?
Well, kind of, because the highway department would typically have in their budget how much money it's costing.
Yeah.
To maintain and rebuild roads,
Mhm.
whereas we pull it right out, I don't,
Okay,
so the highway department's budget never really reflected a $600,000.
right. Normally, a lot of towns, the way they do this, Sean, is the $600,000 for Article 3, 4 and 5 would be included in the highway department's operating budget. And it would change the value of Article 2 up $600,000, and these two articles would disappear.
Mhm.
Okay, what has been done for political purposes, to make it look like our operating budget is lower than it really is to pull these two roadway,
They were probably above and beyond.
yeah, they were at one
And they had the
time.
help of a road committee at one time.
Right, and they were above and beyond because the roads had been let go,
Yes. Yeah.
And about, I'm gonna say 10, 15 years ago, we started this program here in town, and we've actually managed to rebuild, reclaim a number of the roads. Well, our roads are actually in pretty decent shape overall.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still waiting for that survey results to come back, but, you know.
I just think the perspective is interesting, because you had made that it was like a sideways way of funding it, and you saying that it was a political play, but I look at it as more direct, where the voters directly have the opportunity
To
to
say-
either raise them, expend the money or not expend
Right.
the money.
Yeah.
And it's not buried in the budget, like hidden
Yeah,
in there.
Well,
and
it-
with a number that goes up
Right, and
down.
that's where I added the caveat is, this was asking for a lot more than a normal highway department budget would
Yeah.
Mhm.
ever incur. So I understand that part of it. Now, as Bert said, the roads have reached a place where the reconstruction has got to be at least, it should have dropped. I mean, we don't need to in perpetuity reconstruct roads, because we have a decent base that should last,
If-
I'm not a road expert, but I would guess at least 75 years or something.
yeah, if you keep maintaining it,
You gotta keep
if you keep
maintaining.
top coating it every 6 to
But that shouldn't cost
8
as
years.
much as reconstructing.
Oh, no, it's a third of the cost.
And that's where,
And, you know, that's where we're finally caught up to a point where we can start going back to the roads that we reconstructed 10, 15 years ago, and now they're developing cracks. We retop them.
They've been,
They're in
Sealing
good,
cracks.
they're in good shape.
One point I'd like to make, is going back and looking at the origins of these kind of things. Prior to these two articles, there was a petition article. I forget for how much money, but it was huge.
Mm.
And it was a bond issue,
I remember that.
Mm.
and it came reasonably close to passing.
Mhm.
Okay, it certainly got a heck of a lot of support, and it pointed out that the town wanted roads to be better than they were. And these two they more or less followed that. And you gotta be careful, you keep going in the word reconstruct and pave.
Yep.
Pave means this has been a dirt road for 200 years, and it's gonna be paved with drainage and shoulders and everything else. So, I mean, it's two items. So these two, the way they're written, are pure capital items. I mean, if you totally reconstruct a road, that's a capital improvement. If you pave a dirt road, that's a capital improvement, okay? This doesn't account for it literally the way it's written, for running around and oiling the roads or doing something else, or,
Mhm.
some creative maintenance thing. I mean, it doesn't include ditching, cleaning out culverts, all these things contribute to maintaining the roads. Article 3 and the budget do.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to say what you've got now, and that's what you've got. If,
But it seems like we're reaching a point where somebody's gotta take a hard look at this and see.
Well, that's what we are doing.
Because people love the improvements that have happened, but are people considering that we may not need to spend as much
Okay.
money in the future? Are they afraid if they don't vote for this, then, we're back to bumpy
No,
roads? You know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Jason, we have an ongoing survey. We're gonna get preliminary results the
Right. I mean,
3rd
you
of
could drive your
January.
car down the road for a
Um,
survey.
No, yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, it's at least better than nothing.
Professionally done.
It's not a super, super great survey, but it's something to hang our hat on.
Yeah.
And that will tell us whether or not the next cycle we need to move, change these amounts, or what we need to do to keep everything in line, because there's a certain point where the dollar cost of repairing a road goes up exponentially, and it's usually about the 6 to 8 year point after you've built either a brand-new road or reconstructed a road. If you let it go 15 years, you might as well tear it apart, reconstruct it again, and start all over. But you can keep a road almost indefinitely if you top coat it every 6 to 8 years. And what I wanted to make sure is that these two articles permit us to do top coating versus reconstruction or repaving dirt roads that are out in the middle of the boonies somewhere.
The downside to top coating every 6 to 8 years is after 24 to 30 years, somewhere around 25, 30 year mark. And especially if you're in any kind of urban setting, your curves disappear. Your sidewalk is lower than your road.
Mm-hmm.
And even on the roads we have out here, there'll be a big bump to get up onto the road from the driveway. I mean,
Yep.
there's a limit to how far you can do this.
I understand that.
And I've seen where, I worked for a town where the whole center of town, the curbs disappeared. The state kept coming through the center of town paving it.
Yep.
So I guess the question is,
What do you wanna do with it?
can we amend these more articles?
You
Or
do
are
what you
they
want.
set?
They're
Because
gonna-
there's a previous board, do we have to come up with like a new?
No, I think we
No.
use the same language that we have in the block grant and just apply it to Article 4 and 5.
You don't have to have them in there. You can write any articles you want. I just put them in there because
No, the articles are
If they can
fine.
leave 'em,
I just want to change the language.
To just put a comma in there, to reconstruct, maintain, and pave.
correct.
Correct, that's
Some
beautiful.
order.
I just want to make sure we all are on the same page on that.
And I think it can be explained at the deliberative session that we seem to be reaching a point where
We're catching up.
Peter may want to weigh in before anything is explained at the deliberative session.
Yeah.
He did mention the other night that he's pretty proud of how the roads have changed, and,
Mhm.
and he said, there's a few more I really would like to get done
Yep.
before I retire, but, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
a wish list.
Yep.
So you're in favor of
Okay.
the language?
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay.
so we're gonna rate, vote
Reconst-
to raise, to pave, maintain, reconstruct and pave. Reconstruct, maintain, and pave.
right.
Get that word out.
Let's see what
Okay,
they say.
That's easy enough to do. Yeah.
Mm, Okay.
You'll also notice I took off,
Oh,
I took off the tail end of the article. I
Yeah.
took that liberty, which created two more
I would like to.
yeah,
road committees.
yeah.
Right now, you have at least 4 or 6 road committees.
What?
Yeah, like each year.
If you
Is this
each-
another fire
each-
burning that we gotta attend
Smolder.
to someday?
It's a smolder.
It's a
And
smolder.
we're gonna address it in
Yeah.
this,
No, I mean,
in this warrant.
Okay, one other item on
Yeah.
Articles 4 and 5. We're talking about an appropriation period of 5 years. The termination date would be, 2025 doesn't look right. Is it 2026 or 2027?
27.
Okay, it says 25 here.
26 or 27? 27.
okay.
Can you use capital funds the same
Okay,
year you
for
vote
5,
for
do you
them?
want, you really want 5 years on this? I think it's ridiculous.
It probably is because we do spend it all every year, or pretty much most of it.
So it means he has 5 years to spend the money.
Which, it may be in the best interest to scale back this year if prices are through the roof,
I-
and then he would have more money next year.
And then, yeah, well, we don't have to use the money, it just stays there for 5 years. That's what,
Who's keeping track of that?
oh, we do.
Because we've spent it all.
No, I'm
It
saying
should be tracked,
it's,
like Roger should be able to pull that out.
Oh.
yeah, no.
December 31st, 2026.
Yeah, we don't have to authorize all the roads we'd like to do. You know, the money is available for 5 years. So what would it be, 2027?
What was that? Sounded like a dog barking.
That sure sounded like a dog. Is the door unlocked? Can people
Yeah,
get in?
yeah, it's unlocked, soon I,
Okay, the date is 2026,
2026.
because 2022 is year one.
Bless you.
Oh,
Okay,
Bless you, Jim.
all right, I just wanted to make sure we got the dates right.
What is it?
I think it was a sneeze.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
All right, good.
Okay.
Okay,
Bless you.
Article 6 is a discussion unto itself. I mean, the article combines things together.
Is that bad?
No,
No.
you don't wanna have, you don't wanna have the ballot look like the Dead Sea Scroll either. I mean, you better look before or against it. The deliberative session could change any one of these items in it.
Yeah.
So this article is what should be driven by the CIP. Right?
to an extent.
Yeah. But this is like their big, like what they're saving money for goes in here.
Yeah.
Of course, we know what old people think of it.
But I think that the department heads, do they weigh in on this?
They should,
Did they-
especially now that, like, we don't have at least that CIP to go off of.
But the CIP.
Yeah, we do. I sent it out to you both. Deidre got me a preliminary copy, and I did send it out to you both
Okay.
with the numbers. It was like a 4-page, I'm gonna call it a wish list for lack of anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did have some numbers that would fade into this. So
Okay.
I did send it out early December.
Oh, alright, yeah, I missed a lot of those. I haven't gone back yet.
I mean, I can pull it up if you really want it,
Oh, we'll have that for next week.
yeah. But yeah.
What's that?
The CIP,
Preliminary numbers that,
We'll do Article 6 next week.
yeah,
you know, I mean, they were supposed to, I mean, the way the CIP is supposed to operate is that it's supposed to be presented at a planning board meeting. The planning board's supposed to approve it, and then it's supposed to be forwarded to us.
yeah, in which, like, the draft that you have, we're not, you know, we're not bound even after that, but,
No, I mean,
but it's just something to kind of go off
Yeah,
of
I mean-
through an exercise, because it's not an official,
right, and,
document from the
and
planning
Lou
board
did
yet.
spend a lot of time interviewing the various, department heads.
okay. That's good. And then if we could all reach out to our respective liaison, like our liaison duties,
Yep.
like to the different departments and see, you know, what their opinion is on how it's being funded.
Okay.
I don't know if this would be appropriate time, but a thought that I've brought up in the past is,
Mhm.
would we wanna have a, capital reserve fund that is designated for a future police building? And I think it was suggested, if you wanted to do that, you'd want it a complete separate article.
Mm-hmm.
But the thinking behind it was just to have some money set aside so that if the voters say, hey, we want that thing, we could just hit the ground running with it.
Yeah, a lot of money saved.
Yeah, I mean,
Money set
I mean,
aside.
even if you, I mean, I think the number that was bandied about, was about $250,000.
That's what I just,
I mean, it was
Number out of a
I
hat.
mean, and
yeah.
when I checked, originally, the cost of designing the police station that was proposed some years ago, the design costs were about $100,000. I've checked with some of my architecture friends. The typical running cost of design is about 7% right now, but because it's municipal and they're guaranteed payment, they'll back that off to 5 or 6%. But we're still talking at least $100,000, maybe $120,000 for just design fees on the building. So if we put in $250,000, at some point, we could say, okay, we've got enough support from the town to start the process of just the design. Not anything else, no construction whatsoever, and then we have something
How
to,
many designs do we have? of
Zero.
Different buildings.
zero.
What was presented to the voters?
It
There
was a
blueprints, I
schematic.
saw them.
No, you saw a schematic.
A schematic.
You saw a floor plan schematic. I think we had
The
some,
money invested was almost nothing?
the money we invested was $6,000 for just some schematics, a couple elevations, and I think Dave Ledge did the cost estimate originally. And we have a plan of this complex, this 9 acres, showing the building locations, some topography, some general layout of the electrics, which are not anything I'd want to hang my hat on.
You saying outside?
Some outside,
Exterior
yeah,
electrics?
yeah, we have some of that information, some utility information, but it looked incomplete to me. I couldn't tell you where the septic system for this building is. You know, somewhere under that parking lot, I don't
It's
know.
out yonder.
Yeah, out yonder.
There's pipes sticking out of the ground right over here.
Yeah, he says out yonder, you say over there, I don't know.
Say out yonder, I didn't
4-inch
say which
PVC
which
sticking out of
yonder.
the ground.
It wouldn't surprise me if
Hey,
there's several,
Bert, I got a
because
question for you.
the
Yeah,
highway has a
Yeah.
bathroom.
There's 234 cities and towns in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
God knows how many in Kansas, Nebraska, Montana, New York. Somebody's gotta have a police station that would work fine for us. They built it, they got the plans in a drawer, just pick them up and move them.
well, you know, Lynborough built one, it wasn't a big one, it was about a 4,200 square foot facility, because they got blown away for their 7,000 square foot, yeah, Taj Mahal. But so they downscaled it to about 4,000 square feet. They built it about 6-7 years ago. It has some problems, but it's not a bad little facility. And
Lindenborough?
Lynborough, yeah, Lynborough, I always mispronounce that one.
L-Y-D-N-A.
Anyway, you know, and there's been police stations built pretty much everywhere, you know, whether you go to Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, or New Hampshire, the function of a police station is pretty much the same everywhere. It really is.
Yeah, well, the place where you run into differences is Nashua versus New Ipswich.
Well,
versus
the money,
Boston.
the money
Well,
and
even the
the
function of the
requirements.
building is,
Yeah, it's a little more administrative versus functional.
Well,
But that is really-
some towns have more clientele.
has this been done, has this been tried by anyone to reach out to other towns? Now, I know blueprints
they're-
generally are copyrighted, you
Well,
have to pay.
they are, architects do copyright them
Yeah.
to extent.
Not only architects, but a lot of the sub-trades do as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know something, I looked at the designs that we have, and I worked on them a little bit just to play around with them. It is not that hard to throw one together. We have architects and engineers here in town, that I'm sure if they put their heads together,
Bruce Hamilton's designed police station.
and we could whip something together for a lot less than $100,000. I mean, it was proposed, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but it was proposed to be a wood frame structure. Wood frame design is not that hard. It really isn't,
Alright, so,
you know. But anyway,
is this something that we'd like
but
to
I
add?
think we would. Jason, do you want to write that article, a warrant?
I can write it.
Or,
You know, just give me all I need is the specs. Okay, I know the purpose, okay?
yeah,
The purpose is, you know, it's a capital reserve article for the design and construction of a police station, okay?
Yep.
For the future
So, we're-
design,
Huh?
I would say like for the future design of a police building,
Right.
well,
how do you say?
well, we don't want to
contingent
we don't want to
upon-
limit to just future design. We want to say for the design and construction of,
Right,
of
but
a.
I'm saying future because we don't have one here.
Right,
Mr. Doyle?
You're discussing right now a police station that the voters have rejected how many times over the last few years. If you're discussing a warrant article to set aside money to prepare for a police station, are you also gonna have a warrant article to prepare for a fire station, a new town hall, parks and recs buildings that they may want?
Well, I mean,
So, I mean, we're focused on a police station that that the people have rejected a number of times, and we still haven't decided if building two or other options are available,
Mhm.
and you're already planning on putting money toward the new police station without a decision being made.
This is why I'm trying to say, get the verbiage right, that,
But,
For a
but
future-
then we have the fire department who,
but they're not,
you know,
they're not making the same request at this.
or we need a total town complex. This hasn't been decided or evaluated before you're now picking out one aspect.
Yeah.
and
But it's
saying,
not picking it out of a hat.
no,
This
But-
has been an ongoing issue.
It's been an ongoing issue forced by a couple of people who tend to profit. It's not, but it's been rejected by the voters
Mm.
over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, specific projects.
proposals have.
and proposals have been rejected, and right now we're looking
And
to.
those proposals all came from the same people who profit and tend to profit from doing
And there
this.
might be a difference today,
That's right, it may.
but I
so
don't really
step
buy into
one
your,
is,
what you're
are you
insinuating,
going to use
but-
building two to do that, or are you going to use other options and so on and so
Yeah.
forth?
Well-
It
What
wouldn't
is the
matter.
need?
It wouldn't matter. What you're proposing could eventually end up being the seed money to flatten building two and put a police station there.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop it.
well,
okay?
what if it was worded such that it was just a building fund? Don't designate town office, don't designate police station, don't designate fire station, don't even say safety complex. Just an ongoing
vote for that.
building fund.
As a citizen, I wouldn't vote for a building fund for, I don't know what you're building.
Mhm.
I mean, I think you have to be more, a little more specific. I know where you're going, okay? But I think that if you take Jason's proposal and you put it out as a separate article, you no longer are trying to give them a $7 million complex or something else to scare the, whatever out of them. You're giving the people a chance to make a decision. And if they buy into, if the voters buy into putting money away for it, and eventually you get a reasonable amount of seed money in there, then they'll probably buy into building it, provided the proposal to build it is reasonable.
Right.
Okay, I mean, I think it's like a salesman getting a foot in the door.
Yeah, I mean, and would you want to make this an expendable trust
No,
or just a kind of a savings account type trust?
I'd make it a trust, I would make it a capital reserve account,
Okay,
okay?
Mhm.
A capital reserve account that can only be expended by the vote of the people.
that's how it should be
You give
worded.
the people-
By the vote of the people.
By the vote of the
people.
people.
That needs to be included in the verbiage, because otherwise, them rascally selectmen, they're just trying to get more money to.
No, there is a very specific set of words you have to use
Okay.
when you create a capital reserve account. And if you create an expendable trust, then there's a set of words for that too.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, this will not have any language in it that allows it to be expended by, it can have an explanation with it,
Mm-hmm,
like a one-sentence paragraph
okay,
that says, this can only be expended by the vote of the
okay.
town.
Now, the
Yeah,
other
I like
question
that.
I would add to that is, do we want to make it a recurring?
We could revisit it next year. It
Or,
may
or do you
fail
want
this
to put
year.
this on the warrant, on the warrant each and every year?
You have
Or
to.
no, you don't actually. I actually checked into this. No, you can have, this thing can go on for up to 5 years. You can say, okay, every year for 5 years, the town's gonna put $250,000 into this account.
I think most people.
But most people would be happier with a 1-year type thing.
Not only that, they would expect that there's gonna be some sort of a bond, and this is seed money. That's what I would.
I mean, I can live with it either way. I'm just saying you can do it both ways.
If there's no authorization that's starting on a building by the voters, then I'd wanna present it again next year. But each year is
Yeah, it should be voted on each year.
I think so.
Okay, that's fine,
And even if
Just
it
wanna make
fails
sure.
this year, well then,
because I did
What's
try
the
it
amount we're
one the
talking
other
about?
way.
$250,000.
Yeah. And the only,
Half of a
I know
house.
it's not a lot for a good
Yeah,
start, and that's what we're
alright.
trying to do, is get a start going.
yeah, I know, I agree. And I know it's not a lot. I would love to see 500,000, but I absolutely understand the thought process behind it. I can live with 250,000.
Mhm.
It's a start.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll add this.
Yeah, and while we're adding to that, there was a nice little article in the newspaper, in the Ledger, this past week about scenic roads, and we have a scenic road that needs to be transferred from the planning department, planning board over back to the conservation. There are 6 scenic roads in town. Conservation currently controls 5.
Mhm.
They really ought to have the 6th one.
Yeah.
And
Are
we
they
need-
waiting for us to give it to them?
well, we have to draft the article to make it happen. Otherwise, it still stays with the planning board.
Well, they could draft the article and bring it to us.
Well,
The Conservation Commission?
I don't even know what road it is.
I don't either. How's that? I will reach out to Bob. How's
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
That would be nice, cause I wouldn't
Reach
have a
out,
clue
reach
how to
out to
word it.
Bob and ask Bob to send me the road and the year that it was made a scenic road, because we're gonna do in the article is we're gonna reference that particular vote, and we're gonna not make it a scenic road again.
Right.
We're just gonna change who
The
oversees
the
the
authority.
scenic road.
Yep. Okay.
So what's another one that?
And there was nothing, I think,
Incidentally, just, if it's okay, I'm going to insert the article, the warrant article for the, building capital reserve between Article 6 and 7. It'll become 7, the numbers will move down.
all right.
So,
The
because
building?
at that point, we're on the subject of capital reserve.
Oh.
Now, if it passes by a good margin, you might wanna move it into what's now Article 6 in future years.
Yeah, maybe. Sean, did the planning board have anything that they wanted to offer for zoning changes? I know you haven't attended too many meetings, but I talked to Dee and she said she didn't have anything particular, but
Yeah, I don't recall.
not that I recall other than talking about commercial districts.
Mhm. Yeah, but that's not done, so.
It may be a
like that
little late
proposal.
to do that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
No,
getting close.
we still have a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting close.
Yeah, we would have to do it before the first of the year, if anything.
Yeah.
So you got Article 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Okay.
Do we wanna give a dollar amount on Article 12? So the people can, I think that question will be asked.
Well, we can answer that question at the deliberative session, we'll have it.
Yeah, I mean, if you,
What's in there, I don't know, $5,000 or $6,000 or $4,000, something like that.
mm,
It's a minor amount of money, the whole thing's a nightmare to administer.
And this is completely legal to discontinue it.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
okay.
Well, hopefully.
No, it's legal to discontinue it because our research shows that it came from tax dollars, not from a bequest.
Mm.
If it came from a bequest, I don't know what we'd do.
Just let it start collecting dust again.
You got it.
What is
The,
this,
the two capital reserve funds that are being discontinued,
When was the last time they were used?
quite
This
a
is
long
a-
time ago,
Expendable trust, right?
yeah. And, we will have the number
Mm,
at the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that I can't put a finite number in there, because every day it changes.
okay, and the only other item that is not really a warrant article, but is going to be included on the ballot is the referendum question.
I think Sean mentioned last week, you'd like to see them video franchise fees
Oh, okay,
clarified.
Oh, that's right, yeah, yeah.
video,
This was from, I have notes here, the original warrant articles were from 1993 and 94.
wow, that old?
Yeah, so the video franchise fee should be moved up to 100%
Right.
of what we get will be going to the video committee.
How much was that? How much money approximately we talking about?
I hate to even throw a number out there, but I think it's probably around $20,000, maybe a little bit more
Fine.
each
Well,
year.
Because we
Right now.
we voted to increase that fee,
Mhm.
and I think our whole reasoning with the 100% is the users are the ones who pay the fee, and they should be the ones benefiting from
Correct.
the funds that
Yeah.
come.
All right.
And the video committee's up and moving, and
All
we're
right.
gonna need funds, and that's how it's funded.
All right, so we need an article on that.
Yep.
Okay, so we got 3 new articles.
So far.
No, that's okay.
That's okay.
How about an article establishing a road committee and doing away with all the others? Do you wanna have a road committee, or you just want to do away with the road committee? I have this crazy road committee thing from before.
Well, there's,
And there's a road committee from before that still technically exists.
so
Let's
Well,
resurrect them.
I'd like to.
Let's
I
resurrect them.
think
We could have
the
a
road committee is
15
necessary, and it shouldn't just be coming from this board, like, there should be another
No.
set of minds, suggesting what roads are,
Absolutely, this is a huge
Oh, I'm not
part
opposed
of
to a
it.
road committee, I'm not saying that, what I'm saying is, how do we want to do this? I mean,
the correct way. Make it so that is actually binding.
First of all, the road committees that are established, were established, at the tail end of warrant articles, actually, once the money's spent, you could make a reasonable argument that they sort of disintegrate.
Yeah,
There is a road committee that preceded all this,
yep,
that everybody lost track of.
yep.
along with other committees.
Well, yeah, if you go back far, the town had committees to see about having committees, I'm sure,
Yes,
Well, and
You
it's
wanna chair
people.
that one? Committee
There's a lot of value in having, that five-member committee,
I think
brought
so.
back.
And I think there's interest.
There
Yep,
is.
there is.
It wasn't
Care
not,
about the
it wasn't out of
roads.
lack of interest that committee fell apart, it was out of a lack of taking the recommendations, and it just sort of,
yeah,
Well, we gotta look at the makeup of the committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, if the committee had some teeth, that would be one thing, but, basically the selectmen said, okay, we got a committee, and somebody else telling us what to do, and, if we feel like it, we will, if we don't feel like it, we won't.
And we just paved over Pond Road and we done with it.
And if a committee had some authority, that would be fine, but if it's just gonna, oh, this is what we think, and then it,
There's no guarantees for future select boards, but I think this board has
Well,
made
if
it
it's a
pretty
wa-
clear that we want input from these committees.
but if it's a warrant article and it's passed as something with authority to say, these are the people who decide what roads get paved, or what the priority of the road paving is, then the selectmen have no choice.
Is there such a thing as a road commission?
There is.
Is there, so you might.
I mean, basically you can, I mean, the problem is the selectmen in the past have been absolutely unwilling to give up any scrap of power or authority. Now,
so what do we do, Jim, to make it so that, like, what would it be called instead of just an advisory road committee? It has to be, what would it be?
Something that can actually take action,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Which, I'm sure there'll be give and take, because one of the selectmen will be, you know, like a part of the board, like the road committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
So we
Yeah,
represented,
Probably a five-member board with staggered terms,
yeah,
okay, two and one. And,
elected or
and a
appointed.
selectman ex officio,
Yeah,
and
it's almost like we have to write,
I
create this
guess the question is just doing a space, I'll look into a basic warrant article. I don't know if a committee like that can be set up to override the selectmen's decision who are in charge of roads totally, okay? I'm not sure about that.
Mhm.
I know that if you're in a town and you have a town charter, you can create those kind of things, but we don't have a town charter,
Mhm.
okay? And we're not, I don't think we're ready for a charter commission. No. That would be a monstrous project, but I'll look into that. In the meantime, I can get something constructed, and we can work from there. I'll create a draft for it.
Okay.
And some help or guidance in dissolving
That's
those
easy.
committees if it's
Well, that's
necessary.
easy to do. We just leave the thing off, you know, see if town will vote to dissolve and discontinue all road committees, road advisory committees, and highway committees previously established. And then you take over the new one.
Mhm.
And the
Alright.
board could make a motion right now tonight. Is that what you're saying? Is that the board or is that?
no,
a
no,
warrant
that's a
article?
No,
warrant, that's a
you don't
warrant.
need.
Oh, put it on a warrant article.
Yeah, what, you know, I don't need you to vote to direct me to go put something together and bring to the next meeting.
Mhm.
No, we're not making a,
So we
we're
would
not
like
making
to
a policy decision, you're just making a decision to get something to look at.
Yeah,
Are we saying we'd like another article put on here?
yeah.
To dissolve and establish.
And also, as we were talking about committees with teeth, to reestablish, the budget committee.
The elected one. There's two forms, there's
You-
one
right.
advisory, the other is.
Do you want it advisory, or do you want it obligatory?
An actual budget committee that goes through and does the budget and then presents it to the select board for review.
You wanna readopt the municipal budget act, that's what you're saying.
That's not what you just asked for.
Well,
You're asking for an advisory committee which is appointed by the selectmen.
No, he didn't ask for an advisory committee.
No, I want
He said he
something,
wants one that reports to the selectmen,
no, like,
Wait.
prepare it, well, we would
prepares
see
it,
it,
right,
yeah.
and hands it to the selectmen for final approval.
Well,
If you put in a municipal budget committee,
Mhm.
you no longer have authority over that budget.
the
Right.
selectmen,
You hand that to the budget committee.
right,
they run all the finances, so that's what I was,
They don't
Alan
run,
and I were talking
they don't
earlier.
run the spending.
Oh, there is no.
No, they don't spend it,
No, they don't spend it, but
but they do create the budget top to bottom. You no longer have authority or input other than the budget
Right.
office, the Board of Selectmen office
yeah.
into that budget.
Mhm.
And I'm reluctant to create another layer of, I mean, we're not talking about a big budget here. A $2 million budget or a $3 million budget is not a big
Four.
budget.
And then if you include the school, you're up to.
Well, we don't manage the school, you know, but we do the paperwork or some of the paperwork for the school.
Here's
But,
my argument for it. I have this binder
yeah,
of budget and this binder of selectmen things that are supposed to be getting done, that are extremely hard to get done. We dedicate, 4 months of the year just
Yeah.
focusing on the budget. And meanwhile, the Smithville Cemetery is still
Yes.
floating around.
But
out
we're,
there,
but we're still dealing with a small town.
yeah.
And to add another layer of administration, I'm not sure is a good idea. I mean, if we had a town that was double the size, maybe it might be appropriate, but right now, I don't think we're in that position to add that. Right now, we have, as the Board of Selectmen, and liaisoning to the various departments, and knowing many, many of the people by first name, we have a reasonably good feel for what's happening in the town. A budget committee may or may not have that same interface and an understanding of what's happening or the needs of a particular department. And for Meredith to go to a unknown budget committee person and try to, justify
It may be a friendlier
tires.
face than sits here.
I don't think so. I mean, in the past maybe, but but to talk to unknowns is a much harder thing than to talk to people you know and say, look, I've got this, and then you have a feel, okay, do I trust what this person is saying to me?
Here's my other take on it is, I think a lot of people will run for selectmen so that they can be involved in this budget.
True.
And they don't care about whether, I don't know, we get a new war monument, veterans monument, or they don't care about all of these other things that come to us,
Yep.
And they just want this budget, so then, I think, there are people in town who are very interested in the budget. And to put them there, the department heads can complain to the select board if they feel it's hostile, and the select board then could have a meeting. I think that it can all be worked out, and it would.
I disagree. I think you're just adding problems that really, I mean, this budget is not a complicated budget. It really is not.
And yet it takes up so much of our time,
Well, mostly because we discuss it and because we have an interest and because
because it's public money. and you
because
gotta
we're
do
dealing
your
with
due
public money.
diligence on it.
But if we were in a private corporation, this would probably be done in about 3 or 4 hours every year.
Just, again,
Okay.
Mr. Doyle, you have a comment?
I think you're leaning towards an advisory type thing, and I think you should start off there before setting up another elected body. I was part of that elected body, and the reason the advisory committee that's been around for decades fell apart is not because they don't know the people, it's also a small town where everybody knows everybody. And I agree with Jason that there's people that wanna get involved in the budget, but not all the other junk you guys have to deal with. If you can appoint somebody to that thing just as easily. And the problem we ran into in the past is that the selectmen wound up destroying that advisory committee. Because the complaints from the department head was not so much that I'm going to a stranger, because they got to know them just as easily. The complaint was they had to go to that board, present their case, and then turn around and come in here and present it again. Because you would not you personally, but you guys would not accept the advice of an advisory committee. So unless you've got a very, very specific thing you don't like about the budget, you have to give that authority to the finance advisory committee and then rubber stamp whatever they're going to recommend. Because they're gonna spend the hours going through, checking this, doing that, and all the things you don't wanna do. Then you can't ask a volunteer to come in every night, every other night, towards the end of the year, go through this with a fine tooth comb, only to have Joe Schmuck come in here, sit at this table over here and say, oh, I didn't like what they gave me, and then you guys override the whole thing. Without taking the time to
Yeah,
go through
well-
it. That's why it fell apart in the first place.
Well, I've been through the process with an advisory committee, and it at least doubled the time when you had 5 other voices all saying, well, this is my experience, and so forth.
Would the selectmen have to be a part of that?
Well, we were, the
know,
time
would
I
we have to be?
participated,
Could that all get worked out?
Well, I think,
it could be. I mean, theoretically, it should be, but it wasn't, because when the advisory committee came in, and were appointed by the Board of Selectmen, they knew certain things, but a lot of it, they just plain didn't understand. I mean, think of all the questions we've asked Jim about how does this budget actually work, because we don't understand the state forms. If an advisory committee comes in blind, even though you do have staggered terms, they would have to fight through the same issues, and then we have to educate the Board of Selectmen all over again, because we have a 3-year shelf life.
well, in theory, there would be more people hanging around to pass down
You would
that
hope,
other knowledge, or, yeah.
you would
Mr.
hope.
Doyle?
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh.
No, it isn't a five-person sitting around going through all this again. You could have a selectman be a liaison, just like any other committee and everything, not to oversee the whole thing, but to just listen in and be part of it, just like any other committee. You're part of the video committee, and you come in and put your feelers out, and that's what you wanna know. If something jumps out at you, great. If you're a selectman and not part of that liaison, and you have an interest in the rec department, you're welcome to go sit in that meeting, put your 2 cents in,
Yeah.
just like everyone else.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately,
that committee's job is to go through the acreage of paper and crap and research and say, is this a realistic number, is this a realistic number, so on and so forth, and then present a completed budget to the selectmen who say, sounds good to me. And if a department head has a heartburn over a specific line that they didn't get, Meredith and her $10,000 for the front of the truck, whatever it may be, then that's where they come in and have a debate. But not come in and have a debate because they're gonna redo their whole budget in front of you guys after they've already done it. That's where you add the layers.
See, that sounds appealing to me,
Yeah.
to have that being done, because anyone on that committee has a very keen interest in budgeting and finances, and I think
keen interest is one thing, understanding is something else.
Okay, well, I'm in favor of a committee. It sounds like you're in favor of a committee, and it can be reflected that way, like on the article, you know, that 2 of the board members are in favor and 1,
I'm definitely not in favor.
okay.
Do you agree with his suggestion that it would be unelected to begin with? Because I think that's the key difference, is the
Yeah.
elected official just takes the ball out and runs with it, and we tend to the parades.
I like the idea of the elected, committee better, cause then it actually has teeth and has to be taken by the board. But then at the same time, if you get the wrong members on that, then, I don't know.
That's the same thing if you
Yeah.
get the wrong selectman.
No, I know.
So there is no getting around it, this
Yeah.
is life in municipal,
I
as
think
far
it's-
as I can see.
So I think a good start would be to have an appointed board first.
So would we even need an article to do that, or is that still in the,
Well, it's the same as the road committee.
is it still on the books though?
Yeah, there's still a finance advisory committee on the books.
So all we need to do is
You
find
need-
some people who are willing to
There's
take
one on the
it.
books already.
Yeah, I mean, you can appoint an advisory committee tomorrow if you can find 5 bodies willing to serve.
The year they took out the year they discontinued the municipal budget act, they also had an article on the warrant, I believe, for a finance advisory committee.
Which they didn't need. You don't need a warrant article to create an advisory
No.
committee.
No, you
So
can
we don't
create,
need that.
you can create an advisory
Yeah,
committee.
I mean-
Tonight, if you wanted to.
That
Yeah.
goes on to our selectmen's list outside of budget stuff.
Well, so then that brings me to the road committee, cause that's just an advisory committee.
Yep,
Why do we need a warrant article for that?
well,
You don't.
because
You
what,
need a warrant article to eliminate all the previous ones that have been.
No.
Anything that's been created by a warrant article in the past, you gotta use one to eliminate.
but there's more to the road committee than that, is we were talking about making them the authority. And for making them the authority, you do need a warrant article. Because
If that's possible.
Are you saying that you want the road committee
to
to be
determine,
the final authority for prioritizing
Maintenance,
maintenance and
reconstruction.
road reconstruction?
correct. That's what we were discussing, if I understood the conversation
And you
correctly.
want that to come out of the hands of the select?
That was the discussion. That gives them the teeth to say, to take that power away from the selectmen, so that it's no longer just a political,
So you like the
football.
extra layers with this?
I'm concerned that in the past,
And this is just a discussion,
the-
like difference.
that the selectmen have not always prioritized the roads properly. Okay, either through lack of knowledge or for other purposes.
Mhm.
You know, I think it seems prudent to just, yeah, get rid of the old, put a new one, and let them get going and see if they even would wanna have the final authority. They may not want to, they may wanna present their findings to the.
If I could just offer a suggestion, one suggestion I was thinking of is if you had a road committee that was going to be the final authority on prioritization, okay? And the select, you know, and report it to the selectmen. If the selectmen disagreed, and it is just a kind of a wild thought, the selectmen could override them if they had a unanimous vote to override. You know, I'm thinking of checks and balances.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea.
That's in whatever outline there is for this type of a road committee.
We're creating it as we go here.
Oh, we're creating our own method.
Methodology,
Our own Toothy Road Committee?
yeah,
Mr. Doyle?
The road committee would be an advisory committee, unlike the budget committee where you're making a choice, there's actually a set of RSAs that give the, budget committee powers and authorities and so on and so forth.
yeah.
A road committee would be advisory, and you're discussing whether or not to elect them, so that a future board has to take their advice. Well, the board next year can just as easily eliminate that road committee as create it, just like anything else.
Yeah.
So, you guys have to, if you're gonna come up with advisory committees, whether it be road committee, building committees, rec committees, anything like that, then you guys have to have the discipline to follow their advice to a certain extent where you're ultimately responsible.
And that's where
Or give
part of
the-
the change in philosophy, like we're trying to change how it's been done to what we're gonna do going forward. And
Then
that's
you
a part
have
of
to
it.
respect their opinion and not override them unless you can really think of a reason to do it, because they're screwing up drastically, in which case you need to replace members, not through an election process.
Mhm.
But the board, budgetary committee is a whole set of RSAs that goes with that, so
Yeah.
it's a different animal.
Yeah, it depends whether it's advisory or obligatory, because it comes in two different forms.
You know, the Municipal Budget Act is something absolutely separate from all these advisory committees.
Right.
Totally separate.
Right.
So essentially, like the road committee would be comprised of 5 members, one being a board, like one person from Board of Selectmen, the DPW director, and then
Yep.
3 appointed.
Possibly one from planning board, and then 2 citizens at large perhaps.
The one that got tagged on originally had 2 planning board members.
I
It
know,
was the planning board taking control of the
Yeah.
authority. It could be viewed that way.
oh yeah,
I have one more.
Why don't we
Old
just
article.
put that on hold for now, because I have enough to write.
One more old article I would.
Yeah, but this is something that you spoke on specifically and called us out before your town administrator, you'd come in
So
and
where is
question
this road?
the authority of the road committee, that we had
I couldn't
currently.
find their minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, I could, I'm not against the road committee, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, okay? Having a committee to research and then come back and advise and help is good. That's what
we
I,
had said that it wasn't legal, so this is important to get corrected for this upcoming,
I recall that, yeah.
well, what I thought originally, okay, was that when it was added to the warrant article at the deliberative section, I question, and I still do, the legality of that being added, because the public wasn't warned that they were gonna be voting on whether or not to have a road committee.
Yeah, and that was a change of purpose, and you
It-
cannot
it-
change
It added a
purpose.
purpose, it added a purpose to the
Yeah,
warrant.
yeah, that does put the legality in question.
This isn't Congress. I
So
mean,
was
we have
it-
to be pretty exacting with our stuff.
so was there an elected road committee ever?
No.
Or was it always appointed?
As
Appointed.
far as I can remember, it was always appointed.
Okay,
In fact, I remember them hiding in the bushes and watching the road agent to keep an eye on. I won't go into the characters that were involved, but I
Okay.
can still remember the names.
so we don't need a warrant article for this at all,
It's,
We could appoint
except for
one,
dissolving the
except for
old.
dissolving.
except for dissolving, yeah.
Well, you had a warrant article somewhere that created a road committee. I would just, to make it clean, I
Yeah.
would dissolve all road committees, okay?
And we can appoint, we can create and appoint one without a warrant article,
Yeah,
Sure.
okay,
if you look at the statutes, you can create any kind of advisory committee you want.
okay.
But how, why is this so important to dissolve the old ones is, I guess I don't understand.
Because you,
Because you made one.
because it was,
You make it through a warrant article.
it
If
was-
it dies a natural
You
death,
have to find a way to.
No,
voters
it-
think they have one, whether they
yeah.
like it or not.
Unfortunately,
what if we have four?
Hmm?
If we have four of them, that would are dead.
Just because selectmen put warrant articles on again and again and again, doesn't mean that anybody's ever really looked.
yeah, because you know what? These warrant articles, 4 and 5, they have a 5-year term, and the way
Yeah, I
the
get it.
committees were appended to it was to spend that money, so it gives them a 5-year term.
Nice, I guess, yeah, they're,
I mean, it
talk
was,
about keeping.
the way they were established was insane.
Uh,
Okay, but we can fix that. If you look at, I forget what statute it is, I can find it for you, but you have the ability to appoint any type of ad hoc committee. Keeping in mind that when you appoint the committee, they fall under 91A, just as any board in town that's elected, appointed, or anything else. They have to keep minutes, they have to do this and that, you know, so.
Okay. Not to be a sheet that we give the committees
Yeah, this,
going forward to make sure.
this
yeah.
is something,
Now, when I dissolve this,
you know, I can give it to
I
our
will
chair.
put a note in there that the purpose, and to allow I'll check in the phrase, but the person voting for this will know that they're dissolving all prior committees to allow the selectmen to create one new committee.
Right.
Mm.
Mr. Doyle,
As long as you're mentioning like that, you may wanna consider making it more vague to eliminate all warrant article created committees that allows the selectmen to appoint, because there is a budget committee that was created through a warrant article. There may be one from 1887, the Fire Tree Acts Committee. Who knows? But if you're going to make a warrant article to
Yeah,
eliminate these committees,
that's a good point, I'll look into it.
eliminate
I can
all the
look into it.
committees that, because the committee is either elected in the example of a budget, or it's appointed by you guys, in which case you don't need a warrant article
Well-
to cut it up.
Then you're gonna lose the Stern Burton committee, I gotta be careful.
well, no, like inactive. You just
Well,
say,
yeah, but
Yeah.
if I got rid of all committees,
Okay,
ad hoc
Had to be
committees,
carefully
Yeah,
worded.
you better be careful with that one, because.
Yeah, all is a scary
That's
word.
like playing Russian roulette here, okay,
yeah,
with committees.
alright. So,
But I like the idea.
Jason, did you have something else?
I did have that one last Article 21 from 2014, which was a citizens petitioned article, which confused me when I read it, and I don't know if future selectmen would be confused about it, or budget committee members, but it deals with raises and promotions during a default budget year, or something like that.
I
And
thought we put that to bed. Jim, you had researched
You got
that,
you got an opinion from your attorney
that it was,
that basically said that that takes place when the budget is passed.
that would be one opinion, I'm sure. And I know we have the author of the petition in our presence.
No, I'm just telling you what I got from opinion, that's all.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
and
not,
that's what we have.
if
and
somebody
I-
gives me information, I'm gonna pass it on.
Yeah.
So to me, when I look at that, just jumping into this chair, and I've had employees before, and it seems like it just cuts the ability of a department head or the select board to properly maintain
manage,
and
and so,
manage, which, I mean, the town has, previous select boards have dealt with it, which I didn't read in the article at all, but they've dealt with it by just doing that. You budget in your raises, and if the budget fails, nobody gets a raise. I don't know. It, to me, it seems like something that we have, and it seemed problematic to me in making decisions,
Mhm.
Yeah.
running, the daily running of this town.
yeah.
I don't know if anything can be done, or if I just gotta say, hey, this is another
Yeah.
rule that you gotta abide by, and.
Well,
The opinion that we got was that it essentially, like that year, like it was over, like by the next year,
yeah.
cause that was a part of the opinion, like. 'cause we-
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's, I know where Jason's coming from, he just wants to get it gone, so to speak.
or
confirm it, as the case may be.
more clarity, but I don't know what you do with a
But
citizen.
I would say that, you know, we've been operating within its parameters,
We didn't this year.
or, you know,
Well,
somewhat.
apparently we didn't.
Would-
I feel like
I'm
we
not
did.
sure.
Well, we kinda did.
Okay, we kinda did, which I don't really like.
Yeah, no,
saying
it's,
we
that's
kinda
wishy-washy
followed
and gray.
the rules.
But I think if it was presented as a warrant article, people would say, oh, the selectmen are trying to grab back money or something. I mean, I could see it being perceived badly.
I don't disagree with you.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're not trying to grab anything, we're trying to give ourselves maneuvering room within the law.
And really, the bottom line comes down to the employees, to have the flexibility
To
retain
hire,
the employee.
fire, promote, and adjust hours as necessary.
And it may be if we hit this other fire that's been burning up, the wage schedule may eliminate any kind of concern with this.
Yeah.
Well, only if
Except
you
for
run
bonus.
if you run the wage schedule through a warrant article. And we're not prepared to do that right now. So I think you have to eliminate that warrant article really before we can implement a wage schedule.
I
This is
just
true.
wanna make a comment, and this is kind of generic, and I'm not gonna say that I think I'm 100% right, but I've seen this in other things that sort of relate to it. You can pass all kinds of things at town meeting. You could and I saw a town meeting pass an article naming a road. Okay? They didn't like, somebody didn't like the name of the road, and they wanted it changed. And that was ruled to be just fine, but the selectmen name roads, town meeting doesn't name roads, see you later, okay? And that's because the town meeting, the legislative body, doesn't have the authority to do that. And now, translating that over to this, and this might be a bit of a stretch, but you have the statutory authority to manage the budget that's approved. And I would question whether or not town meeting has the authority to say, you can't promote Joe from a light equipment operator to a heavy equipment operator and give him a $10 raise a week, okay, without town meeting voting on it. And so, going back to the advice we got from the attorney, I think that's consistent that you have the right to manage once it's been approved.
Yep.
You can only spend what the voters allow you to spend, and that's what you've been doing.
Yeah.
So, well,
First of all, you've got two attorneys' opinion, and is your recent one in writing, that the other one is. But one of the things that came across was that we had developed a habit of passing out raises in November that were also then added into the default budget. So if we're gonna ask a question, if I'm making $10,000 and it's in my budget for $10,000, and you choose to give me a raise in November and then add it to the default budget, does the Board of Selectmen have the authority to expend money in future years without approval of the voters?
It's a good question.
Really, you don't. So do you have the authority to give me a raise that you haven't budgeted for? Now then you get into the gray area, well, I have $10,000 on my line. You have the ability to move all $2 million into my line and pay me $2 million. Because you can move money around all you want. So the purpose of that warrant article was to make all of the backdoor raises go before the voters for approval, instead of just giving somebody a $10,000, $5,000, or in a couple of cases, $20,000 raises in November, when nobody's really noticing it, and then just throw it into the budget and call it part of the default. If you recall, the last default budgets for the last 10 years have all been almost identical to the regular budget, because you're squeezing the raises in somehow and calling it part of the default. And
It's
it's
not
not.
being done now.
I know they should, we're not talking about what shouldn't happen, but what did happen. So that's why the warrant article came about, because.
so for example, because the department had money left over in their budget, then a raise would be given over,
Well, money-
like above and
first-
beyond.
Okay,
Like
first of
what?
all, if you're talking about the department overall,
Yeah.
or you're talking about the line items for salaries, because if you budgeted properly, you shouldn't have any money left over for salaries unless somebody quit.
Mhm.
In which case, now you're talking about taking leftover money from a vacant position and applying it to other people, so that goes to default, and then we're gonna replace that guy.
Yeah,
That's upping the budget that the people didn't vote for. So if you're talking about just the line item for salaries, then no, the money's left over, you know what I mean? You can't take that and pass it out. I can show you in the minutes where a previous chief of police came in and said, we hired a new guy, you guys wanna approve him? They approved him. We got him for $15,000 less than we had budgeted for. Good job. That $15,000, $10,000 for the chief, $5,000 for the lieutenant. This is in November. They got raises, period over. We're not saving the town the time. We're just manipulating the money, and they got raises.
so that's the spirit of the article, was to stop that.
The spirit of the article is to stop creating a part-time position with benefits, hiring somebody because we can't give them a raise, we're gonna hire a whole nother position, or to stop it. That was the spirit of the article.
Mhm.
To make sure the voters are aware of the money. We had a union created years ago because nobody wanted to pay for healthcare. And during that union negotiations and arguments back and forth, I sent a letter to each of the selectmen reminding them that they don't have to give out pay raises. You can play the game the other way. You can't deduct anything from their pay because they're now a union. On the same hand, you don't have to give them a pay raise unless it's union approved.
Mhm.
So they got no pay raises that year, and everybody got ticked, and the union was dissolved. The only people that got pay raises were the two girls working in this office. And they got significant pay raises, even though they're part of the union. Again, backdoor, dead of
This-
the night, non-public sessions.
This sounds like another, reason that a wage schedule eliminates a lot of headaches.
Yeah, cause then the community knows and everybody knows, like, that information's out there, and, projected 10 years out.
Or however far you can reasonably do it.
And there's another, form that'll be made available during the deliberative session that kind of breaks everything down and explains it. And if there's adjustments to it, you'll see it like one year to the next, so. Yeah.
So I guess that probably trumps any, we don't wanna tamper with a citizen's petition.
No,
I would leave it alone.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention was, I spent 6 years on the municipal county government committee in Concord. And the most dominant thing that would come before us for legislation was related to Senate Bill 2 default budget.
what's that?
I mean, we just got
My spit.
bill after bill, okay? We got bills from people that thought the budget, the default budgets were too low. We got people that thought the default budgets were padded up, okay? It's a horrible arrangement, okay? And I know what we've seemingly done here, I mean, I've done it so far here, is the default budget is last year's budget, see you later, okay? And for purposes of calculation. But you're right, that if people do try to manipulate those in some towns, they will try and boost up the default budget, yeah.
Everybody will try to manipulate anything they can get away with.
Oh, yeah, I know
That's
that.
just nature. May I make one suggestion about other warrant articles before you?
Yes, sir. Yep.
The selectmen may want to consider eliminating the Green Center revolving fund because it's not supported by RSAs.
I don't recall seeing that.
There was a warrant article to create the Green Center revolving fund. The Green Center is neither first of all, it's not part of the town, one. And two, if you look up the RSAs for revolving funds, it does not list remotely having a Green Center as one of the purposes of a revolving fund.
But we did have a warrant article for that particular purpose.
They had a warrant article created, just so happened that the head of the Green Center was very close to the town administrator, and now we have a revolving fund. But the revolving fund RSA does not allow for a revolving fund for that.
Must have been approved by the DRA. It must have been approved by the Department of Revenue Administration.
Well, the RSA does allow for a recycling clause within that. But the recycling clause then quotes you to another RSA which defines recycling, and that means more like our hazardous waste agreement with someone else,
Yeah.
not the Green Center.
But we're not supporting the Green Center with town funds, are we?
Well, are we paying for their heat, electricity, and space?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do contribute some to the heat.
I'm just saying that we should not be controlling their funds. They are not part of the town. So we should not have a revolving fund.
They're in the town report, I don't know how they got in there.
Because they put in a warrant. And they,
So
when
what
you
he's saying is that it should just be, like, they should have control of their own funds with no town oversight.
I will look into that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There is a question if it's established incorrectly, then
well, that's one thing,
Should
but
be
it's
established
also a
correctly.
big boon to various families in the town to have the Green Center.
oh yeah. Yeah, it's a
I mean, I'd
big
hate to
place.
see it,
well, a side question to that would be if they establish a revolving fund, which they have, it's in the town reports, so you guys are signing the checks. And
But you don't see checks
I'm
being
just,
signed for the
I'm
Green
just saying
Center.
what the RSA would say that, not only you sign the checks and the treasurer gets all the money. If that's the way we're operating, we should have a revolving
I'm gonna be working with the auditors once they get all these little finance done,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
One thing I wanted to mention is, and I realize you changed things tonight, okay? But going into tonight, if you look at the MS 636, page 9 of 9.
Okay.
You'll see operating budget appropriations, that's Article 2.
Yeah.
Special warrant articles, those are capital reserve and things like that.
Mhm.
Individual warrant articles, total appropriations, and the less revenues estimated, and that 2,007,991 is 30,000 less than this page in the current town report showing the same form. Of
How
course,
mu-
you've just gone over that.
How much less?
About 30,000.
About 30,000. That's not bad
That's amount to be
to be raised.
raised by taxes.
Yeah, I'm comparing two identical forms from one year to another, okay?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
if our projected revenues are off, that burn up.
For projected revenues, yeah, I mean,
I think
but,
that even the revenue estimates were,
Slightly
I think
underestimated.
under what we
Underestimated.
received last year, yeah, so, I think
It
it'll
should
be
be,
over.
yeah, it should be good.
you know, and just, I just wanna mention something too, because the auditors and I are going over a list of questions they have, or, you know, this account was weird, what's going on? Okay, one of the things that they had was, and I spoke to them briefly about it, I sort of got, I'm gonna write up every one of their items. Unfortunately, some of them I can't do off the top of my head because I wasn't here when all this stuff happened, but this is 2020. But they had a question was, and this is interesting, I got tax setting from 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2025. Okay, 2019 was 2173. 2020 was 2125. 2021 is 2222. Okay, so these are 19 and 21 are too far apart. And then, you know, you have 21, 25 in here. That took a dip. Which year did the town go up? 21, 25.
And that's when it took a dip.
That's when it took a dip. The town goes up, this takes a dip. And their question was, how come the town tax effort was so much higher than above in 2020 than 2019? Well, when you lay out all these spreadsheets and you get the other pages, you discover that in 2020, the revenues estimated were 1,897,000. In 2019, the estimated revenues were 1,991,000. Oh. This, I just want to show you what happens to this stuff. And then in 2020, we had war service credits of $226,888. In 2019, we had 185,250. We've had some folks come to town. We have people moving in. Also, we expanded the total disability, which makes up a little bit of that. And then we come up to 2021, you gave back $200,000, okay? You gave back that, but our revenues were 2 million. Our total appropriation was, compared to 2020, is not much different, 20,000 more. this year. But we also gained assessed value.
Mhm.
So there's a whole bunch of things driving this, so when we get a little further down, we can try our best to take what we have projected before we go to a deliberative session, and put it over into a tax rate setting formula to see where we think we're gonna come out. And we
Ahead of
do-
time for next year, like to give us an
For
idea.
this deliberative. you're
For this
saying.
deliberative session, I think we ought to be able to tell people within a certain range, you vote for all our recommendations, this is where we think you're gonna come out. Don't hold us to it, I mean, some weird thing can happen, okay? But based on every trend we know, that you should be somewhere between here and here for the town tax rate.
Mhm.
And so I think we can do that.
I think it's very fitting that there's a bunch of gray lines in there.
Yeah,
They're
Well,
highlighted,
no,
but they're highlighted like gray.
No, no, no,
'Cause they
the
come-
gray lines, the highlighting is where there's text. The numbers
I just
are
was
white.
looking at it at a distance.
well, no, that's why.
It is kind of a gray
Like a
thing.
projection for next year
Yeah.
essentially is because
Yeah.
that form's made up based off of last year's numbers. Like, we're not setting, like, we're collecting the taxes for 2021 and 2022 essentially,
Yeah.
right?
Well, what I wanna do is be able to
No,
say
so
that,
cause that form's generated based off of last year's numbers,
yeah,
like last year's, but like the
What
warrant,
the actual revenues were.
but we can make
Yeah.
projections.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if we make
That's what budgeting is all about,
reasonable, I
right?
did this in other places where I worked, did it for quite a few years.
Mm.
Hey, you vote everything in, you're gonna wind up here.
Yeah.
Okay? And I will admit that occasionally that we moved something a penny because it worked really good. We're always giving money back, okay? And so that was always helpful. But, you know, okay, we take it down a penny, we're a penny better than where we were. So, you know, a couple of extra pesos went into giving it back, which made people happy.
Well, that's why it's important to give back the change every year once we establish our baseline.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the January 3rd report to see, to see where we're at.
Oh.
After that.
Yeah,
But we
Magic
prob-
day
it'll
of
probably-
December
the magic
31st.
day, yeah.
It'll probably be a week or so before we close the books. Okay.
Mm.
Because we'll have outstanding bills that are coming in that we have to
I
pay.
understand, you know what I mean, though,
Yeah,
yeah, like
but
getting
yes.
that earliest report so that we have that to work off of in our decision-making for the fund balance.
You'll have a fund
discussion.
balance, you'll have a fund balance to look at,
Yeah.
okay? Not audited or anything like that, but you'll have a fund balance to look at.
Mhm. Okay. So, do you have anything else that you wanted to
Yes.
discuss? Okay.
Okay, the signs are up at your. Okay. All these Class A properties have signs in front of them, including Wheeler Road.
Do you have another one there or no?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Alright,
yeah.
give one to Sue.
I have one at
I
my
do.
desk.
Sure.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay, I just want to let you know, the signs are up. I had talked about having the attorney do the purchase and sale agreements, until I discovered the purchase and sale agreements that were done by Bart Mayer, who I think trained our attorney. I might as well go use the ones he did for a different town, because they're not copyrighted. So, yes, I have the purchase and sale agreements being set up, and what we'll have is, we'll have purchase and sale agreements for each one of these properties available. And so when the auction comes, and you can see what the recommended deposits are.
Mm.
And then the attorney will put together the deed.
So should sale number 3 have some additional information on there?
Which one?
Sale number 3 on Wheeler Road. This was the one that, was it attempted before? And didn't end well?
The one on Wheeler Road still has the occupant in it, whoever buys it will have to do the eviction.
Should that be noted in here?
That will be noted at the time of the sale.
Hmm.
And, I'm gonna talk to the attorney, because one of the things that, from talking to other people that have done this, and that is, one thing that's recommended is if you don't have the people out, and the eviction should have taken place within 90 days of us taking the property a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Okay, is to actually have the attorney send something, a notice through the county, you know, to start the eviction. So when the person buys it, the eviction's been started, the clock's going.
yeah.
Incidentally, the people that live there, they're fully aware of this, they've been notified,
They have.
yes,
Has there been any responses?
no, but they signed the card.
And, yeah, so this process is like a top priority for next year, like to start right out on getting that procedure all straightened out so that it's clear cut year after year, what needs to be done, where things are at.
Right.
Jim, you know, we've got an assessed value on these properties of about $700,000. How much do you expect we're gonna realize on this? How much does the auctioneer think he's gonna realize?
On which one?
Well, we have the total value of these properties that are going up for auctions as a assessed value of $730,000. How much do you think we're gonna realize? I mean, we're not gonna see $700,000. We're gonna see
No.
60, 70,
I
$80,000 maybe if we're
can tell you
fortunate.
what, we didn't talk exact numbers, but he expects the old highway garage to be a hot item.
I would too.
It's an acre and a half on the highway, historically was the equivalent of commercial use,
Yep,
even though it's probably a knockdown,
yeah.
okay? We've had a lot of interest on the old Cape located on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
I think the real estate market right now is
Yeah.
It's pretty hot.
about
I
as
think
good as
it could be somewhat high. The Greenville Road, the charcoal house,
Mm.
okay? We expect some good activity on that, simply because it's, how many acres is that thing again?
4.3.
What's that?
4.3 acres.
4.3 or something
Mm.
like that, yeah. It starts out relatively narrow at the top, but it goes down and
Right.
it expands out. And when it gets down to the river,
Yep.
it wraps around, and the other house in New Ipswich up there next to it, it's a mobile home, it doesn't get to the river very much. This thing goes all the way around the back, so it's got waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like it's
yeah,
not like a lake, a
Yeah.
pristine lake in Maine that keeps the same level, but you can put a canoe down there and a dock and,
Sure.
you know, and landscape it up a bit. I mean, you have the ability to do that. Every once in a while, they drain the pond down, but, so it is kind of a poor man's waterfront.
Yeah.
So he expects that to go good. The interesting one is on High Bridge Road. It's 5.8 acres. And what I discovered, because we have to notify abutters,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to get the abutter from Greenville. The abutter is the same person that owns the property that we're taking.
Mm.
And I'm not sure what's going on there, but they were notified of the deeding, and they were notified of the liens, and they were notified of, you know, everything, so.
yeah,
That's, and next to it is so you got a piece of land in Greenville with a house and barn and stuff on it, it's pretty kind of ratty. And then you got a stone wall and trees. And you got this big piece of land, it just goes up the hill.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they expect that to go pretty good too.
Yeah.
So we could realize $100,000 on this stuff.
Well, we have to give back to the prior owner
Hmm.
anything above and beyond what taxes were due, what the liens were, and we have to, and this is a fun drill, we have to take everything and move it up to the day of the sale. Okay? As if it was on the tax roll, as if it went to the lien when everything else went to lien.
Yeah.
So this becomes a fun drill, and then we can add to that anything we expend for legal fees, selling fees, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
So the only one that's like clear cut where you could get more for is the, old highway garage there.
Yeah, we own that free and clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about though, was if we're going to realize a significant amount of money here, this would be excellent seed money to put in your building fund, Jason.
you can't do it.
Like, you can't do that.
Has to be.
It has to go back into the general
It goes into
fund.
the general fund, you can appropriate from the general fund, you can't just
Because
take money.
it's tax money.
Yeah,
It
no,
wasn't
no,
paid.
I know, yeah. I was just hoping that we could somehow manipulate it through.
No
But,
manipulation.
but in setting a tax rate for the following year, this would be income.
Yeah. So we give it
Okay.
right back.
This would be income, you flip it right back, okay, so, and-
With a hard, fast number. You know, that you're starting with.
Not even
Yeah.
relevant to the,
So by the end of.
December
I'll say by the-
31st.
By the end of February, we should have a number from the stock exchange that we know, that we give back in
Oh, you're gonna know,
November.
you're gonna know January 22nd as to what this is.
unless we don't check our emails too.
No, aren't you
Beginning
gonna
of
come to the
February.
election?
No, well, and then you have all the other numbers. Don't say January 22nd, cause then you'll tell me all the different calculations that need to be done.
Well, yeah, it's pretty,
Well, it's good to see because it's almost been 2 years.
I don't know what to do with the
And then
old tape.
before I was, came onto the board, that this auction was spoken about, so.
This one is
It's been.
at least 3 years in the making.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And there's actually more properties and more things.
Not that we're excited about.
No, I know.
Never
but-
excited
Yeah, but
about
it's
somebody not able to pay their taxes.
No, that's not what I'm saying, it's yeah, we're also not fulfilling our duties to the taxpayer.
That's been a tough
To let
one
these
for me
sit.
to swallow, is this is part of the deal.
Yeah.
well,
That
you
you
got-
have
you
to
got-
do this for
I'll
other
give you an
people,
example,
and
the
it's
Cape
not
on Main Street.
pleasant.
I know where the former owner is. He's in Florida. And he's buried underground, or his ashes are underground or something. He's gone, he died,
Yeah,
okay? And he has no estate.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So it's not all,
I don't know if there's anything left over on that one, I don't know where it goes, we're gonna have to find out.
we don't put enough money in our legal line?
Yes, we
We're
did.
gonna be using it all up on deed research.
No, we're not.
no, and that was the point of going with the auction company, cause they wouldn't take a property that wasn't properly.
Okay, and the other thing, the other building that probably might go pretty good is the old highway garage.
Mhm.
Yep.
I mean, let's say you had 100 for that, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more.
Well, the thing is
Oh, I think
there's
it's
a, property next door to it, that's decent, it's a little bit on the wet side, but, it could be filled and built on, and that whole, the two, what?
Oh, don't.
Filled?
I-
Filled.
Phil,
Yeah, filled.
like your Now he got it. Okay, but I just want you to know what the status of this is.
Strip mall.
Thank you.
Moving right along.
No
Okay.
land impact.
Something moving forward.
Yes,
Hey,
okay.
so I have
I-
a question in case anybody asks. This shows the 2021 taxes, but not the total outstanding taxes. So if people call
The people buying it don't care about the outstanding taxes.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah, it has nothing to
Because
do
with-
with.
That's wiped out.
That's a wipeout, that's gone.
oh, okay, so we just hope that we get,
It can be used in some calculations, but not on buying the property.
okay, okay.
Okay.
And
I
just to
was-
let you know that the town property, that town garage, there was in interest today. Somebody was
Yeah.
calling, asking all kinds of questions, so.
Yeah, so I guess the best answer is come to the auction on the 22nd.
So if
Well,
that thing
he
gets
was wondering
auctioned,
about zoning, like, could he open up?
if it gets auctioned off and there's
Was a
some of our
garage, you probably
property
still have to
still in the
put
building, is
ZBA.
that property
Yeah.
no longer the town's?
Everything that's in there on the 22nd, on the date of sale, is gone.
Whichever departments might be storing stuff in there should
Um,
know that. If
It's
there
all-
isn't.
Yeah, I think it's all cleared out.
It's all-
I think it is. I mean, there's a lot of debris in there, but that's
I'll
it.
talk to Peter when he comes back from vacation.
Yeah, just make
I
sure.
need
it's
you
good.
to have an authorizing resolution, okay? This is for Health Trust. They had this thing done in 2015 when you had dental, life, and, health, but then the health came out, and so they wanna do it over again. And so, what I was asked for by Teresa was for you guys to adopt this resolution, name me the person who can sign this other stuff, and we're good to go.
Okay.
It's a membership agreement is what it is.
And that's all this is, oh, so that's just, all, he's the only one who needs to sign it then.
Yeah, well, he needs a resolution to authorize him
Yeah,
to sign
you
it.
know, we're gonna,
Okay.
we're gonna follow the law and that sort of thing.
I move that we authorize Jim to sign the healthcare resolution on our behalf.
And the bags that are sitting out here are Christmas presents from Jennifer.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Jennifer.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Oh, you caught the ball, now I'll get this taken care of. And does the board have any objection to having the, budget hearing noticed in the newspaper?
I think that's mandatory, isn't it?
Hmm?
Isn't that mandatory?
I can't find it.
Um,
It's recommended, that's what I was.
I think we have to notice that and the warrant articles as well. Don't we?
You notice that you're having a budget hearing to discuss.
Yeah, but,
We don't
What do you,
post all
what do
the
you mean by
warrant.
noticing the warrant articles?
no. I remember a couple of years ago, one warrant article was not properly noticed and therefore did not get,
Oh. You don't have to, for the budget hearing, you don't have to put it in the newspaper, but you
Okay.
gotta post it in at least a
Right.
couple of places.
exactly,
For a bond hearing,
yep.
if you go to the statute that says how you notice it, you only have to put it in the newspaper. I'm not recommending you do it. And I'm just thinking that,
Yeah, I think it's appropriate that we advertise budget hearing.
we'll have an ad in there. We have to have 7 clear days, and, so I was thinking that, well, I pretty much have the notice written anyway. And I'm looking at Tuesday, January 11th.
so you're gonna take care of the notices?
Huh?
So you're gonna take care of the notice?
I'll take care of the notice and get with you and send it over to the newspaper,
We're a photo.
and then we'll put the same notice, we'll publish the same notice in the
So
website
the hearing's gonna be on the 11th.
Correct,
on the 11th,
Okay.
okay?
but we need to notice it 7 days
Dan.
prior.
One of the things I
making
put,
sure that
I gave,
wasn't-
I gave you all is I gave you a copy of the statute 32.5.
Yes.
Okay, you know, when you get a chance, just peruse it, look through it, because buried in there, okay, is the budget hearing. And what we really need to do is, you know, you have to cover any article that's got a buck in it. And when you're all done and you finalize it at the hearing, you can't add anything to it.
Right.
The other thing is, if for some reason you get into something dicey for some reason, you all decide that you wanna change something and you can't make up your mind, okay? What do? There's two things. You can adjourn the hearing and then renotice something, and then we'll all go nuts trying to get it in time for town meeting. Or you can, and it gives you the instructions in there, you can, you know, like adjourn the meeting to a time and place certain. And so basically, at the hearing, you can say, on this date, in this spot, we're gonna continue this hearing. So you can do that, and so, there's some stuff in there that might be handy to look at.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, I'm working with the auditors, it's like playing Clue, but we're getting there.
Okay.
Okay.
Jason, did you have anything in the old new business for tonight?
I did have, going over the budgets, my eyes went over that employee appreciation fund, and there has been typically some sort of a dinner or something done around this time. It might be too late to plan something.
I can, that's already been looked at a little bit, I
Has
talked
it?
to a
Asked
couple
Jim
of ladies
last
about
week.
it,
Oh,
and
is there something in the works?
right now, we're looking at the Lunar New Year.
The Lunar New Year.
Is that like a
Well,
blue
we
moon?
can't- Right, well, you know, and,
How come we're looking for a date or something, then it gets gray?
anyway, so let me, it's kinda late now, because they would have to get somebody to bring stuff in, notify everybody,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, maybe part of it's my fault, you know, I'm not used to that custom, because I haven't worked here,
Mhm.
and haven't been a selectman for a long time. But they suggested that doing it after New Year's might be kind of a fun thing to do, because that's kind of the doldrums and, you know,
And everyone's not so busy.
yeah, we were looking at February 2nd.
Huh.
All right.
So we'd have to encumber those funds.
Yeah.
Second.
I've got, at the next meeting, we're gonna have a list of miscellaneous encumbrances,
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
and we'll just make a list of them and off we go.
Yeah. Do you know if Mike managed to encumber the funds?
We don't have the detailed information yet from the tower man.
Can you
Did
ring?
speak with him, I did
Yeah.
today, and he's waiting for the paperwork to
Well,
come
can you
through.
remind him that times are running out?
He's fully aware of that.
I got two PCs on order to replace, actually, the two old ones are mine and Roger's, okay? And we're just gonna replace the box.
Yep.
Because they're really at an end of life stage, they're running Windows 7. I guess you all, I sent you an email, I'm not sure I could. But we had a, Monday morning, we came in and we couldn't get to anywhere. And everybody worked good to get it going. We got our internal system back pretty quick from whatever hit it took. But we had a problem with the internet. And the tough part was, you could take a laptop and go down the basement and plug it into the port on the modem,
Yeah,
so you surf the web. You plug us in to the same connection, and you can't surf the web, because we have a firewall and a hub and all this other stuff. And, we think it was a problem. We have a fixed IP address, because we have a VPN to the state. And we think something got messed up with that fixed IP, address, because it had to be reset.
okay,
But CADNet was responsive, very responsive, and quite frankly, so was Comcast. They work with us.
okay.
So I mean, you know, I don't know what caused it. You know,
Yeah,
the
we had
Comcast.
numerous issues last year, like with outages similar to that. So, and that's what they had to do, was reset it each time like that happened, so there is a bigger, there's something, are they still looking into it? Is anybody looking into like the actual issue, or?
I don't. Nobody's saying what happened. Okay, the guy from CADNet has some theories. You know, we're not quite sure. But we're gonna keep an eye on it.
Okay.
And overall, the system works. Some of the workstations are getting a little old. We have, we just signed up and, we got a bill, paid the bill for it. For, you wanna call it warranty service, if you wanna call it in real time from Dell,
Mhm.
for the two servers, the police and the, 1 year. But after 1 more year, there'll be no more warranty on it.
Okay,
So sometime probably at the end of next year or early 2023, we're gonna be looking at probably replacing those in 2023. They still look good. I mean, the box is shiny,
Yeah.
dusted off, it looks great. But I guess electronics do wear out.
yeah.
And,
And so,
anyway, that's
an
like-
estimated cost on that would be, are those expensive, those servers, or?
I hesitate to say what they are, because I haven't bought one in a long time,
Yeah.
but, yeah, those are pretty substantial servers. I'm not sure what the server is across the street, but can't be too much, it's only a couple of workstations, but, you know, the unit here, I think, was fairly pricey. I mean, it's not like a $1,200 PC.
Mhm.
Yeah, my guess is they're probably in the 3, 4, 5 range or something.
Okay, but it's not tens of thousands of dollars.
No, you're not buying a pickup truck.
Okay. Good. Alright.
So then my other question was, did we wanna go over a referendum question on building 2 and PD
I did send you copies of it.
building? I know we talked about it, it's not necessarily something that we said we're going to do, but it seemed like a good
Well, we
idea.
were heading in that direction.
Till you came along with your questions, Bert.
I asked. It's a besetting sin.
Yeah, it is something to start with.
I mean,
It's gonna be,
I really think, you know, if we're gonna start putting money aside for a specific purpose, that we need to know the will of the
Well,
residents
it would be nice.
in some way, what they will and will not support. I mean, if we're not getting, if you're even thinking of a bond, you need 60% support from the residents for some endeavor. If they're not willing to give us 60% support, we're just spinning our wheels in the mud like we've done for the past 5 years.
So I think it was Sean who came up with the idea for the referendum, was it?
Yep.
Did you have a?
well, I think it's good, and we were talking about making it a part of the warrant, but then
Yeah, I mean,
there should be more of a questionnaire, maybe handed out at the booth.
if you wanna do it that way, we can do it on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and say, oh, by the way, if you'd care to fill this out, we'd appreciate it.
I have faith that we're gonna have,
And then we do a
a good
hand,
attendance this
You think so?
cycle, yes, yeah.
but,
I do, I
but
really do.
the only thing we'd be limited to is separating the paper, doing a hand count on the things, which shouldn't be that big a deal. We'd have the hard copies. You were saying something about the town clerk needing to be involved for a referendum. I'm not
Well,
sure.
I think the person to speak with
Yeah,
about running a referendum is a moderator.
yeah, I asked
Runs the
him,
show.
I asked him the question a while back, never really got an answer. I'll ask the question again.
Okay.
Well, he basically said anything that can be a yes or no answer could be.
Yeah, well, you
programmed
can also
and put
do-
into the warrant.
Yeah, you can also, yeah, do multiple choice, but, we don't,
Yeah, I've seen it done before, I've seen at a.
no, I mean, I don't wanna clutter up the warrant.
No, but I think that the key questions that need to be answered are, what are we doing with building two? And that could almost be by itself, although any action that's taken would then need to be authorized by the voters, but
How
I
many
just,
people know that there is a building two?
very few.
And where building two is?
But the
Other
people
than
who
they
do
get-
I was just gonna
are
say.
passionate.
Yeah, the
No,
people-
no, I know that, okay?
Yes,
Well,
Is that, you think that's true?
oh, yeah.
Cause I asked somebody, hey, what do you
I
think if we
wired-
put a referendum, how would you vote? He says, I think probably most people really don't care.
I wired up the phone system of building two.
I don't know. When
And
it's-
I don't know if that's an accurate assessment or
No,
not.
that's what I had heard initially, but then once I started floating the idea, cause it, you know, I figured we had money somewhere just to tear it down, like enough volunteers, like get rid of the white whale, you know, essentially.
yep,
But the more I spoke with people, I found out that it's kind of split down the middle of people in favor of tearing it down versus the ones that see the value in what's already been done to it and the fact that it's not really that bad of a building. And that's where I kind of just, like, the scales evened out. I didn't realize it was so passionate that way to,
yeah, it's,
Yeah,
it's
remodel
definitely,
There is passion on it. Okay?
So,
The passion may be subsiding as people die off, but aside from that, I mean.
Yeah, I mean-
Older people, but.
I mean-
there's a lot of, you know, blood and sweat that was put into that.
yeah, and,
building.
and you know, I ran the numbers on it, and if we had to use town money to remove it, it's not worth the money, the payback is, there's no payback to tearing it
I
down.
know with some people with equipment that just come and, you know,
Well,
stuff it in
if
dumpsters.
if we can get it done for free,
Yeah.
yes, it's
Yeah.
worth exploring that possibility. At the same time, it's worth exploring the possibility of renovating.
Correct, yeah.
And I want to explore the gamut as to what people will support. And I don't really know what people will support. I mean, we've floated numerous articles to do various things, and all of them have failed miserably.
A capital reserve article that Jason brought up is a feeler to get the mood of the people.
Yeah, and,
You're not coming up with a solution as to how you're gonna solve it, but you're coming up with the need to solve it.
well,
But I think,
And
is it possible that a referendum is premature?
so not, well, a referendum may be premature, because if you have a referendum on the warrant, then it's binding.
No,
Whereas
no,
if
it's
we have a survey,
you can call it a non-binding.
Well, you can call it a non-binding referendum, that's how I wrote it. And that means it's non-binding, because they're not putting any money into it, they're just making selections, so
And
to
neither
speak.
does that bind us to follow in their
Correct,
direction.
correct.
It simply is. an
But
opinion.
it gives us a feel for what the town would support or would not support. And we do not have that feedback.
Well, the
And what's
people that-
different
People
than-
that count are the people that come to town meeting.
and what's different, yeah, than those cards? that-
No, it's the
that were
people
mailed
who
out,
actually
that
come
we're
to the
actually gonna-
polls.
We're gonna survey the
That's
people that come to
that's
the
town
polls.
meeting.
Oh, yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
your second town meeting, yeah.
People who would
correct.
tend to be more interested in it.
Because we rely on the voters, you know.
To
give
tell
us
us
authority to
what do
do
they
things.
want.
Yeah, exactly. So we need that, we need to solicit those responses. rather than a
Would it-
general feel of people that don't go to the polls.
Would it just pay to have two questions for building number two, demo or reno? Yes?
No,
Or
no, I think that's, I,
Well, even that discussion, we can almost discuss next week more in depth
If
as a
you'd
part
like
of
to,
our,
yeah.
overall warrant discussion, but Mr. Doyle, did you have a comment?
Instead of a referendum, which is you're getting more and more binding, is there a reason we can't talk to the moderator and find out if you can't print up a couple pages questionnaire and have them at the voting?
well, we can just
Well,
do
we
it
can
on,
do that ourselves.
we can do that on 8.5 by 11 and just
That's what I
hand it
mean.
out
We
with the
could-
ballot.
No, but whether or not you can legally present that during the voting.
Yeah, you can,
And just say, this is optional, not required, here's your ballots, and could you fill this out and drop it in a different box? or whatever.
I can find out whether or
And
not.
you can put whatever you want on that and find out a feel about just about anything.
yeah, I mean, I wrote up, a ballot or a referendum, non-binding, says right at the top, non-binding referendum, and said, here's some multiple choices, what would you support? And, some people might support multiple options.
Yeah.
And some people might say, I like things the way they are, leave it alone.
Well, we had the same type of situation when we were doing the Old Town Hall situation. We actually set out the questionnaires and had an open house at the Old Town Hall to find out what's
Yep.
people wanted to do. We got everything from mostly fix it up and turn it into a showcase.
Yep,
And the other thing was, the other extreme was, we haven't burned it down yet.
yep, marshmallow roast.
So you're gonna have all things, but you wanna get a feel of, there may be other ideas that nobody in this room has even thought of, say building two.
Maybe we needed a line other.
That'll be for
Council
next
section.
week then.
Yeah,
And,
and, go ahead.
okay, the other thing was, the employee handbook, and I'm not asking that we do it tonight, but when are we going to? Did we set a date for reviewing the benefits?
We have
Especially
not
that
set a
section seven.
date.
I'd like to see a date set, 'cause it probably hit the news and
I'm
Nice to have it
reluctant to
resolved.
tackle it until we've finished our budget aspects, which would be after the 11th. But if you want to set something in January, the first week, say, let's see, the 11th plus 7 is the 18th of January.
Well, the 18th is our potential, push week for,
the budget here.
yeah,
Oh.
budget hearing, if there's like weather or something.
Yeah,
Well, I guess I'm sure the, employees aren't gonna let it die.
Well,
They
actually,
wanna know what,
if you leave it the way it is,
We-
it's probably okay for now
yeah,
it is what it,
with the
yeah.
employees, okay?
yeah.
Yeah,
But
It
we,
is.
but we really do need to address the issues that they brought up.
sure.
So usually, the budget hearing, we haven't set a date for the town meeting yet.
Well,
That was the 8th.
I have a suggestion.
Was it February 8th?
8th, I think it was a Tuesday
February,
night.
February 8th it's for the deliberative session.
Okay.
It's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday during the week that you can do deliberative sessions.
Okay,
You can do them from the 5th to some other day.
Yeah.
The 5th is a Friday or Saturday or something. But it'd be Tuesday, the 8th. And then March 8th is the second Tuesday in, calendar year. Anyway, March 8th is the second
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Jim, do you want the dates?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got a phone number and a contact. I'm gonna be calling the school tomorrow.
okay.
Okay, to make sure that, and they wanna know when we wanna do it, cause.
So for
maybe
the deliberative, then the 12th would be our snow day, that Saturday.
Let's
That's what we
see,
did last
our
year.
our deliberative session is
February
February 8th. You want a snow day for it?
Yeah, pre-planned snow day.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll see what I can come up with, but you have to open it. So you have to bring at least two, the moderator and a couple of people there, and there has to be, because I've had this happen before we had SB2, we had typical town meeting one Saturday, and, we were in a blizzard, okay? Yeah, but maybe 20 people showed up with four-wheel drives and we just recessed it to the following Saturday. So I mean, but having a snow day would be,
Yeah, I don't
I'd
care.
like to have it, you know, put out there in advance so that people know what the snow day is gonna be. Like if we do have to cancel it, instead of, you know, canceling it potentially on the 8th and then coming up with a snow day and then getting that information out.
but March 8th is fixed.
Yeah,
The sky can fall.
yeah, no, I know, I'm just talking about the deliberative session.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Yeah,
Cause
that's
right,
fine.
cause right now, the budget hearing for January 11th, but essentially our snow day is the 18th, so. Which is the last day.
Doesn't matter, that's why God
Yeah.
invented dog sleds.
Would you wanna make the snow day the 12th?
Yeah, that's Saturday.
Yeah,
No, well, I meant for the budget hearing. The budget hearing is January 11th,
right.
okay? You wanna make Wednesday the 12th as the snow day?
I will not be here on the 12th. I have a prior appointment.
Thursday the 13th?
That works.
I'm trying to get it away from the last possible day.
Okay,
Thursday the 13th works for me.
yeah, 13th works.
You got that? So
For the,
11/13, and I'll know what it is.
say it again?
11/13, and I'll know what it is.
Snow day,
For the budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But here again, we want, if the weather's bad and it's not good for people to show up, then
Yeah,
what we can do is we can have, you know, at least 2 selectmen show up, open it up and adjourn it. Because you have to do that.
yep,
And all we're saying with the 13th is that if we show up and we adjourn it, we're gonna adjourn it to the 13th.
yep. Yeah, and how's that call made, by the way? If the school's closed, we close?
Well, the budget hearing is here.
Yeah, it is, but I'm just saying if the weather is terrible and we don't want people to come out, how's the call made?
Well, sometimes the schools close. and
I'm
the
just wondering if we're
storm's
gonna
over.
follow this,
Yeah, the storm could be over at 2 in the afternoon, everything's cleaned up and the school was closed.
yeah, I mean, I know that happens. I'm just wondering how you're gonna make the call and get the information
I
out.
think you have to do what Jim said.
Just do it.
You gotta come in.
Yeah,
Someone has to come in and say, hey, nobody's here.
And you say
Because it's
tough,
the road.
if
Yeah,
there's
it's
3 of
active.
us, we just go
if
through it.
it's an active storm, yeah.
If we have an active storm,
Yeah,
of any significance, and we know that the 13th is gonna be good,
yep,
then we'll come down here and we'll just
sure,
do it.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay,
You know, at least, you know, we don't wanna say, well, we toughed it out, we got here, and there's 2 people sitting out here, and,
yeah.
yeah.
You all set
Who
with
does
that?
candidates night?
No, I have the policy that I asked about last week.
Okay.
You asked for, some time to think about it, and I'm
Yep,
wondering what the
and we
decision.
did have a letter from that lady, Miss Thompson. Did you see that one?
Oh, I'm not talking about the handbook.
Oh, all
I'm
right.
talking about the
Oh,
COVID-19
okay.
mandate.
I did, so did either Shauna or Josh reach out to you?
Not
Not here, no.
no.
I can't support it just because of the fact that we didn't create policies. I think it's excessive. And I'm not looking to create a policy that will prohibit a department from participating in something potentially.
But is that, I think that's excessive, that we're going to allow our departments and committees to dictate what people have to do
You
to
gotta be,
participate in their meetings or functions.
Jason, you gotta be
or-
careful how you approach this. I did some research.
Yeah.
There's a difference between policies, regulations, ordinance, and bylaws.
Okay.
policies are something that we send out as, and they're considered advisory. They are not law. In other words, we can say, this is our policy, but you cannot enforce it. And the other part is if you have one child who comes down with COVID at one of these events where they had a policy in place or a regulation or whatever mandate they had for wearing masks, and one kid comes down with this thing, and we sent down a policy, town could be sued.
That's
Okay.
possibly, I mean, we could be sued every time we,
I'm just
Do
saying
anything.
that,
the thing is,
For
what that policy does, Bert, is it does not mandate a parent to send their child to anywhere. What the policy was proposing is that each resident and each employee, they all can do what?
I'm
They
saying,
can make their own choice as to
I'm
they
saying,
can weigh the
leave it
risks
alone.
themselves.
Leave it alone, you're opening up a major can of
The
worms.
can of worms was handed to me because, and it was through the rec league basketball. There was no, when we signed up our kids for it, there was nothing that said, by the way, your kids may or may not have to be masked. There's nothing said. We started off, practices were fine, then they weren't. And then kids had to wear masks while they were playing, and now some almost passed out.
That doesn't work very well.
So then now they have to wear them when they're sitting down. But if grandma and grandpa want to go, or mom and dad, anybody who attends has to wear the mask. Now this is terrible. It's a terrible place to be because these are your kids, right? So of course you're gonna do it. You'll wear the mask, fine.
Yep.
But as soon as you get out of that building, poof, it's off. And what does that tell me? That tells me they're being forced to,
Yep,
and I don't like it.
So if.
that doesn't
if it
matter
was
whether
a
you like it or
town-owned-
not.
If it was a town-owned facility,
Yeah.
all of those people would have the ability to choose what was right for them. It's not a town-owned facility and is being governed by a different authority other than that department.
So then, but by default, we're participating in this overreach, I would call it an overreach into people's freedom and liberty. We are participating in it.
No,
And it does not stop. We were told 2 weeks, 2 years ago. It kind of simmered, and now it's taken off like a rocket again, and the overreach is beginning again. And when will it ever stop?
no, if you do
And do
this,
we wanna
you're
be-
going to open a legal can of worms, you're opening
Why is this a
ethnic and
legal
moral.
can of worms?
Because you cannot mandate safety.
You are not. No, this is what the mandates are doing, is trying to mandate safety.
Then
What I'm
that's
saying is-
great, let's keep it safe. Leave them
What I'm saying
alone.
is, we have no right to mandate safety.
We have no right to interfere with somebody else mandating safety. If somebody wants to wear a football helmet on the field, great. That happens to be the rules. The NFL has mandated vaccines for their players and testing on a regular basis. I mean, we should not be interfering with a safety issue.
But this policy is not
It is.
interfering with any safety issues
It is.
whatsoever.
It
All it
absolutely is.
All it's saying is
Leave
that
it,
nobody can mandate.
leave it
Read
alone.
it? You want? I don't think you read it out.
You
last-
can read it,
No,
No, I'm,
because it's not. All it's doing is saying, it's basically saying, hey, how about we go back to 2019? The way we used to look at freedom, liberty, now,
read
Yes.
Article 3 of the New Hampshire Constitution.
and
And
what
it
do you
says-
think that the state's interpretation of
I
that
know what the
is?
state has done with it.
No, what do you think
But I'm
their
saying that
interpretation
in
of it
order
is?
for people to be safe,
Yeah.
some liberties must be given up.
Yeah. So we have speed limit signs and various things.
Correct.
Masking of grandma and grandpa
Is
to go
fine.
watch the kids. In your mind, is fine. I believe you also said last week that you would like to see a vaccine mandate
I would
implemented in
love
the
to see a
town.
vaccine mandate, but I have never proposed it.
But this is the reason why I put forth this policy, is because you may not propose it, but somebody else might.
They might.
On a department under our authority. And do we, as a town, is this what our town is?
Well, it's a town of, you know, freedom of choice. And if that department has support for that mandate, then that's what those, like, that department's employees will do. Like, I assume that a department head's not gonna look to do something that will upset the majority of the employees. And in that case, we would have to step in, but
Where do you think most of the overreach, I mean, do you feel there has been government overreach at all in the last 2 years?
There's been overreach by the government in the last 100 years,
No,
period.
I'm saying specifically in the last 2
Specifically-
years, specifically in response to COVID-19.
Actually, the government has been fairly hands-off.
So you don't feel there
I don't
was?
feel they've overreached at all. They should have slammed the door and said, we
Do
are
you
going to
consider-
mandate vaccines. They have done so in the military, and they've also taken the steps of letting military members go.
With dishonorable discharges,
No, I think they're general discharges.
maybe.
But
So in 2020, when we declared a certain segment of our society non-essential, you feel that was not enough. I think these kind of reactions, would they put the death clocks going on the TV and boom, and it's just being pounded into you. In my mind, it's crystal clear that there has been a concerted effort to pound fear into people and to bring division into communities.
you are correct to a certain extent that no disaster will go taken advantage of, so to speak. I mean, the politicians live on fear and disaster. I mean, that's their basis for getting elected, to say, if you don't elect me, terrible things will happen. That's the bottom line politicians live on. What I'm saying is, COVID's real.
There's no argument.
There's a problem. Let's let people solve it in their own way. We have no policy.
You almost
The-
read this.
Let's let them solve it, but let's not mandate anything from on high. Let's let the little segments do their thing. If there's support for doing what they're doing, great. If there's no support, it'll vanish or evaporate on its own.
We
Leave it
thought-
alone.
We thought. The problem comes in is, so government has done its share, but what we're faced now is bureaucracies and unelected branches of government are now exerting these policies from on high. For instance, OSHA. We have no recourse if OSHA does something like, we're very, at best, we have such a long recourse.
Yep.
And so, I agree with you on this. It should go right down to the little guy to make his own choice about how he walks into this building.
So,
Regardless of what any selectman, department head, committee member tells him, he
So,
should be able to make that
let's
choice.
not tell anybody what to do. Let's let it do the trickle down.
Right now, we are allowing them, by not saying anything,
That's
we're
fine.
allowing, for instance, the rec league basketball.
Leave it
Now, in
alone.
order to participate, you have to follow these things.
That's
That
fine.
was not, the question was never even asked of the parents. It was just dropped there. And neither, I think the same thing with the boards.
And
Should-
some of the
I should've
boards,
looked into it, whether or not it was a part of the registrations, but I don't think that it was a complete, surprise, because even last year when we were speaking about, you know, the rec came to us asking if they were able to have the support of the select board to have a basketball program? We said absolutely, but you need to have, you know, guidelines, you know, for safety in place, which they did. And they got approval from you know, the school board. Didn't get approval for the school board, for basketball, because like the timing was too close. But I don't think it's right to utilize those kids, and I know that you're gonna say the other side has created that, like, this middle, but to make it impossible for the kids to have a basketball season at all for a second year in a row.
Well,
I cannot support. I believe that the fight is a different fight.
And this is not about the basketball.
Well, no, it's about the basketball.
It
That's
is
where
not.
they're-
That's what precipitated this this thought comes to me. Okay, so we thought we're gonna leave it to
'cause
the
right now,
department
tell me,
heads.
yeah, well, tell me another department or another committee that hasn't been successful in navigating this themselves.
Well, if defined as successful, because there's been people who have grudgingly followed along with this guideline that have been made for the
So I
planning
guess
board.
success to me would be, an institution of a mandate of some sorts, and then a reversal within a short period of time. So the planning board is a prime example of that. There was support for many months, I don't know the exact amount, to, you know, be remote, and then when we met, wear masks, and then that was quickly overturned by the same members of the planning board. So there was a reversal of thought right there. So that would be my idea of like success. And, you know, letting people choose and letting these committees and these groups choose, because I'm sure there's certain people that are, you know, not comfortable coming in because of not wearing masks, and those people remote in, like through Zoom, to participate in the meeting.
And that's all fine, and that's,
So they found their path.
but,
So doing
but they're
this
in
would
finding
actually
their
inhibit-
path,
yeah.
it wouldn't inhibit, because
Not one member quit over,
there would be no authority given to anybody to implement a mandate. And that was early on, Sean, in the overreach, relatively speaking. We're 2 years into it. What kind of society do you, like, is this, in your mind, is this an acceptable society where we're forcing our fellow residents to do things? And I know Bert's not gonna like this, but there's very little scientific basis for wearing a mask.
no,
And
I-
especially in a room
Okay.
that's been designed by engineers to circulate the air, top to bottom, front to back. Some have to wear masks, others don't. And so why would we support this kind of
Jason,
insanity?
Jason,
Well,
you have
just
to understand the
he
purpose.
posed the question to me, and the answer is people's and groups' ability to have freedom of choice.
Mhm.
That's what I support.
Yeah,
Their individual freedoms. Everybody has that ability
yeah.
to make those choices. I don't
That's what
agree
I'm
with
proposing
the-
here.
No, you're taking choice away.
I'm taking the choice of forcing other people to do things away. I'm saying you're not allowed to force other people to do things. All you have to do, everybody
So-
understands the risk
So
of
if you,
COVID, do
if
they
you
not?
agree to that, that should be sent individually to the SAU, to different government officials in the state of New
For-
Hampshire,
For what?
just stating like the board's opinion on, like I would sign on to something like that was geared towards like taking the fight directly to who the fight should be brought to, instead of this will place our community's children squarely in a battle, and it's not right.
They are already squarely in a battle, Sean.
They-
You have blinders on if
I
you
don't
think
have,
they're not
I
in a
don't have
battle.
blinders on, because
They are.
they are utilizing another authority's facilities, and they're operating under the guidelines that that authority has placed upon them.
I understand, but if anybody has suffered, it's kids. In the last 2 years, kids have been ripped, yanked, and pulled this way and that way, and they've been told, these are bad guys because they don't wear masks, or these are bad guys because they're wearing, it's been horrible.
I
what's been
understand
done to
that, and I
kids.
agree with you, and that's why
Absolutely
this should be focused to something else other than our town departments, which haven't had any issues. I haven't gotten any complaints about things. Some people have been upsetted by some things. Some people choose not to participate in whatever program it is. And
So now,
other people say, oh, my vote does matter on this board, so instead of going along with something, they stepped up and voted to overturn something. And so the majority ruled
Yeah.
on that. So to me, our policy of letting the different committees and boards and departments choose what the best direction is for that department, committee, or board has been working.
At the cost of people surrendering some of their liberties.
And that's a choice that you have to make in
In order
participating
to
in.
participate in society, we have to surrender our liberties. And we have to allow some unelected official to tell us how this is,
So, yeah, but what unelected official is telling you to do something? Cause right now, like, the school board's governed by elected officials. And-
well, like I said, and I guess I'm stepping back and looking at the big picture of our society as a whole.
Mhm.
Other than, I think most people feel like the rug has been pulled out from them in the last 2 years. Do you trust,
There's gotta be a different
Do
way
you-
to go about it.
there's a different way of going about it, and that is how? How do we get our freedoms back? Where we can actually decide whether or not we think this is, what do you think, Blake?
If I could, before you comment, Mr. Doyle had his hand raised a few minutes ago.
You had said something about boards, for example, having gone from remote meetings to, we all agree to have masks and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But please remember that you're talking about support, meaning only the people you're sitting with. I know people who won't go to those meetings because you're required to wear a mask.
Yep.
Now, there's nothing, as far as I know, anywhere that stops anybody from wearing that. You're not mandating that you have to
Well, that's what this
not
policy
wear a
says.
mask.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to bring up
Well,
to Sean.
if you choose to wear one, great, but if you're gonna require me to do something, whether it's sign in, wear a mask, why don't you put up a poll tax? That's been outlawed in this country. Charge me $1 to come to a meeting. It's the board's decision or the smaller board's decision. We can put all kinds of restrictions on people. You're inhibiting people from participating in the process. Now,
Well, I
you're
think-
saying,
I believe
grandma and
it's a
grandpa
bit
don't wear a
different,
mask.
it's a bit different than a poll tax, cause we're providing the things that board may be requiring, so there is no financial burden to somebody.
Right, so then I have to wear a top hat. I mean, you can do a lot of different ridiculous things.
And that's
As
just.
Jason pointed out, there isn't a lot of evidence supporting masks anymore. And there isn't, so why would we give anybody the authority to mandate something because of their personal preference?
Nobody has, currently, no one and no department or committee that I'm aware of has a mask mandate in place.
Does that include the desk of masks and sign-in right outside this door?
So it's an option. The mask, were you made to wear a mask before you came through the door?
Not this one.
No,
If I had come yesterday, would I be required?
I don't know.
Planning board does require it.
Planning board doesn't require masks.
Okay, that changed.
No, it was a reversal. Yeah, that's what I was speaking on, was that they had required something and then it changed. So, and it's a function of the democratic process and allowing people and groups to make decisions.
That's called, you're flirting with mob rule. Like Alan pointed out, the people who won't come because there's a mask mandate, generally are not out talking to the newspaper about it. They're just like, you know what, forget it. If that's how they wanna be, and you won't see them. You can say that that was the majority, but there is a growing segment of society that is being disenfranchised from participating. Now, if we look
So,
overseas, you
if-
wanna see,
If I saw a full audience of people with no masks,
Mhm.
and then the mask mandate went into effect, and it dropped, it would speak to me and speak to something.
What do you mean?
There was no decrease or influx because the meetings are so lightly attended.
Right, and this,
All of the meetings. So I'm not seeing exactly who is being discouraged from attending something because of a mask mandate that doesn't even
That's
exist.
right, you're
That
not
does
seeing
not,
it.
well, no, that does not exist right now. So the attendance hadn't gone up from it.
so in my case, I'm really opposed to putting masks on kids, and I don't intend to, make decisions for other parents. But it's something that I feel is important, that my kids will continue to function without this for a variety of reasons. Anyone who's looked into the issues knows what I'm talking about. And it may fall on
If
one
that
side
was
or the
geared-
other.
If that was geared towards the SAU, I'd sign it tonight. Solely.
Why would you, you're calling this a heavy-handed mandate? You'd be fine to hand that to the SAU,
that's-
but you would not take it on yourself.
No, because I don't feel like they should have a mandate in place. I feel like people should have the ability to choose.
And that's what this is. And that's what I'm saying. So any board who comes in here,
But right
Should
now,
not have
that-
the
that
ability.
would impact the rec
So
department
it's about
and the kids'
basketball.
basketball program.
that's all it's about. So if we waited
The
a
same
couple
thing,
weeks.
well, it's the same thing, no, I won't sign it for anything in town because you're taking away the ability to choose.
I'm taking away the ability of the leaders of boards and committees to impose these kind of restrictions on the people who will attend. That's all this is doing. And people have the right to choose. People can make their own decisions.
Which they
Without
have,
it.
Which they have been doing.
Without it, yeah, but they're basically being forced into doing something they don't wanna do. If they wanna attend. If that's an acceptable way of living life, it isn't to me.
So
To
far,
me,
I
it's
haven't
bizarre.
seen any, like, there has been no forcing. I haven't seen it in this town. We've done everything that we can to make it so that everybody has the freedom to choose. At the polls last March, even though the bulk of people wore masks that came in, and pretty much everybody that worked did, all Bob could do was suggest that people wear a mask. I didn't wear a mask
Why?
at the polls, because I don't believe in it, like being forced to have something done.
I don't know. That's why I'm
That's
really,
interesting. But
it's
All right.
mysterious to me how.
Mr.
have the
Chairman,
ability to
we've
choose.
talked about this
Okay.
thing for 15 minutes. Either call the question or let's move on.
I think we're gonna move on from that.
That is disappointing, because in the fight, I mean, we took an oath to uphold the liberties outlined in the Constitution, and Bert only wants the third. I don't know, it's disappointing. Nobody will stand up against this machine that's just,
Let's stand up
Overreach.
against the machine, Jason.
huh?
Let's stand up against the machine, but not
We
take
are in a
away.
position to say, you're not allowed to mess with the people's lives anymore. That's what we're in a position to do.
Mm. I
I'm
think
sorry it doesn't
I think
have.
it belongs at another door, that is all. But I agree with you, I do.
And this door here is where the rubber meets the road for people. The higher doors,
So, do you have anything else,
no.
Bert?
No, I think we need to move into our closed sessions about other things, but I have no other open issues.
Okay. discuss appointments?
I wanted to discuss appointments, and I wanted to go over resumes for town administrator.
Okay,
Those were the two major issues.
yep. Yeah, and I'll add,
You want me to get, I don't have my file with me, but I will get it.
sure, once we move into,
Yeah,
On public?
Did you have a question?
I do, actually. I was
Okay.
curious about the Vertex Tower. I know we've been talking about it, or you guys have been talking about it for a few weeks at different meetings, and I was trying to find in some past minutes when it was voted on or approved to build the tower, and I couldn't find any information, so I'm just maybe not looking far enough back. I was curious if I could just get some
I think
information on that.
Bert has the latest, greatest.
Well, if you go way back, I think it was approved by the planning board in October of 2018. My memory may not be perfect there, but that was my recollection. It was put on hold for various reasons by the Vertex company, and then COVID hit, and steel prices went through the roof. My last communication with Mr. Alvarez, who's kind of heading the project, is that they are planning on starting it sometime late spring, early summer, with about a 3-month construction time. However, that we do not have that in writing, that's just verbal.
Mhm.
And do you have a definite location that I can find in those minutes?
You'd have to go through the planning board minutes. I looked at them recently, but they're online. If you go back to that particular date time, I'm thinking October 8th, at least it was under discussion at that point, but please don't hold me to that.
Yeah, I'll look in the surrounding areas.
No.
So if I could, just to correct one point, like, Mr. Alvarez isn't heading up the project.
Well, he's been talking to the attorney.
Correct, he was asked, by the board to keep communications up with that group, because they seemed to fizzle out, and we couldn't determine whether or not it was from our part or from Vertex. So,
Right.
they're just staying on top of it and driving it forward.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. That's all I have for questions.
Okay.
find Ron's phone.
No.
Oh,
Alright, so do you wanna make a motion?
I move we move into non-public under, let's see if I can find the right reference.
reputation.
Under 91A:3, Part 2, B, hiring of any person as a public employee.
Wait, which one? Oh, that would be B?
B, I believe, hiring for the resumes discussion.
Before we go too far,
Thank
can I
you.
take you a quick
Good night.
bio break?
Could we take a break?
Good night, Alan.
No.
Thanks.